on the seas, and you're going awesome for an alleged victory by Iran? Senator Chris Murphy should be ashamed. Back in a moment. Americans deserve a healthcare system that puts patients first. Right now, it's slow, complicated, and controlled by insurance companies. That's why more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy, a pharmacy that supports your medical freedom. You order online, licensed doctor reviews your request, and they handle the hard part. Your prescription ships right to your door. Please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
We know it's early. Mike's not totally awake yet either. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
We have been talking a lot about the upcoming Make Missouri Pro-Life Again banquet that's coming up next month. That's, of course, being put on by our friends at Missouri Right to Life. You can learn more about that, newstalkstl.com. Just look for the slider that's got Riley Gaines' picture because she's going to be the keynote speaker. And as a matter of fact, we've got Riley Gaines scheduled to be on the show here today at 8:05. Hey, good morning. Happy Thursday to you. Now, another event before that, 1 week from tonight, is going to be the Road to Zero Town Hall event. And I'm going to be moderating that. I'd love for you to come on out and say hi. Also, we're going to have State Senator Nick Schroer there. We're going to have State Representative Ben Keithley there. Camellia Peterson from Americans for Prosperity is going to be there. We're going to have our friends from Mo Tax Relief Now out there as well. And you don't have to agree with the proposal to get rid of the state income tax to attend. As a matter of fact, if you're not sure about it or you even disagree, we'd love to talk to you. It's going to be, I think, a really helpful conversation that we're going to have next week. And speaking of Camellia, she was on the program with us on Wednesday, of course, following that vote in the legislature that will officially put the constitutional amendment question on the ballot. And here was her reaction and her kind of outlook for where she hopes the conversation goes.
So where do we go from here? And one of the things that I think we need to approach this is by saying those questions are fair. Let's talk about them. We've got a few months to talk about them. You still need to keep it basic and simple and, understandable for the messaging.
Yeah.
But we also need to acknowledge that there are tough questions and that sometimes people's worries and sometimes their objections aren't necessarily for bad reasons.
No. It's a tough topic. And it
really is. So let's start there. So we're now joined by Camellia Peterson with our friends at Americans for Prosperity, who we are working with next week on our town hall event here. And so the legislature now says, yes, it now goes to the ballot. Now the real work begins, Camellia. And so I want to get into some of the objections that we're hearing because I think some of them are valid enough questions that we need to talk about it. And that's the whole point of the town hall meeting. But the basics before the voters now, whenever that's going to be, August or November, is essentially, do we want to have the end goal of making Missouri the next state without an income tax?
Good morning. Yes, so lots of big things happening. And I'm going to start off just by saying, we were at our National All-Staff Retreat in Boston. We chose Boston because of the turn 50th anniversary. And one of the things that ASP has really been, promoting and working on for the last couple of years has been this idea of what made America great and reigniting the American dream. And it's that one small step that individual people took for liberty. And so that's really our emphasis, is like one small step can you take? So I really think that for Missouri, this, this idea of phasing out income tax is, it's a big step, but we have a lot of small steps to get there. And it takes bravery, because change is hard. But yeah, I think that, what we're doing right now, I will tell you, I'm still kind of in shock that we got it passed this early in the session. I know we have a few weeks left, but so I think that's a good thing. But I think, like you said, the real work begins now, and we need to keep having the conversations that we've been having over the last year to address those questions and concerns that people have.
Camelia, this is going to be on the November ballot, correct?
As far as I know, that's the plan.
Okay, which would make the most sense, I guess. So from a messaging standpoint, what do you feel like are some of the most effective ways that we can attack this? Because this is going to be an uphill battle. There's going to be a ton of pushback and well-funded pushback. So, and you start talking about taxes and a lot of people's eyes glaze over. So what do you think is the most effective way to attack it?
I mean, I think the bottom line is that, this saves the average Missourian $1,500 in income taxes. What could you do with that money? The prices of everything is going up, and the government shouldn't get the first dollar that you earn. And so, I think that's the message, is this is putting more money and giving you more control over, what you do with your money. And to me, that's the most important thing of all here. And I know the changes, like, it's a big change. I think we need to acknowledge that. And I don't think that it will be easy, and it won't be overnight, but it will be great, I think, especially for our kids in the long run.
Okay, so let's talk about the affordability part of it, because that's part of the pushback we're seeing. That we're already seeing some talking points from Progress Missouri and the Missouri Democrats and some other organizations like that. And they're saying Republicans just put the everything tax on the ballot. So let's hit this head on, because the affordability question is what they're saying is you're not paying sales taxes on that car repair right now. You're going to have to do it now, which is true, probably. You're not paying sales taxes on that streaming service, and you're probably going to. You're not going to pay taxes on this service or that service, and you're going to have to start doing it. So they're arguing it's going to make life more unaffordable, especially for people at the lower income. What's the reality and what's the myth in that?
Sure. So, I think that there are, and this is where we get into the wonky, economic weeds, and it's hard to explain this. It's hard to explain how much you pay for income tax at every level of what you buy. And so you are paying it, you just don't see it, but it is built into everything that you buy as a calculated cost in that. And when it comes to talk about, affordability, and especially when you're talking about, senior citizens, people on fixed incomes, there are a lot of things that Missouri has done in the last few years to address those issues. We stopped taxing, for heaven's sake, we stopped taxing Social Security income. I couldn't believe we were ever even doing that, but we've stopped that. We've, did away with the capital gains tax. There are a lot of those things that affect, everyday Missourians. And I think that this is a way that will continue to bring those costs down for them, as, because part of this is not just that we're, I think the idea that you're hearing out there is like, they're going to tax you on everything, right? Well, there are things that are not going to be taxed. The governor's been very clear on, we're not going to go out and tax healthcare. So when you go to the dentist, you go to the doctor, you're not going to be paying extra taxes on that. So I think that the people who are looking at this plan are very cognizant of, the people that are, have limited resources. And the idea, we do not want to make that life harder for them. So I think that there are a lot of ways where this will level out. And, the truth is, when you got, the mechanism in this bill actually is the only viable path to get personal property and property taxes down for those people. So I think that there's a lot of potential. We just need to communicate it in a clear way.
Camelia, you mentioned the fact that this measure actually made it through several weeks before the end of session, which does seem like a minor miracle, maybe a major miracle. But there are obviously other big agenda items that we're still looking at and hoping to get some progress on. Where do things stand with the REINS Act, and remind our listeners what the REINS Act is?
Sure. So just to recap, the REINS Act basically says that when unelected bureaucrats and agencies make these rules that cost businesses and Missourians, money, they have to have a checks and balance on that. And so if they're gonna make a rule or a regulation that's going to have a lot of cost to it, the legislature has to approve that, and just put more checks and balances in there. And this also codifies, the governor's very good idea. When he first came into office, where he said nothing is, no rules are even being proposed unless they get, my sign off first. And so it codifies that too, because those are both good things. And so we've come so far, but we're right now in the Senate waiting for it to be put on the calendar so it can get to the floor for debate. This should be good bipartisan legislation because it literally helps everyone.
We're visiting with Camelia Peterson from our friends at Americans for Prosperity. Camelia, we got our big town hall coming next week. I have been saying on the air, I really hope people who are looking at the income tax question and they're saying, I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of stuff from a lot of sides. What is this all about? This is who should be at this. You and Mo Tax Relief Now, Americans for Prosperity, us here at News Talk STL, we didn't put together a campaign rally. We put together a town hall to have the discussions. And so even those who are saying, I'm not in favor of this is who needs to bring their questions. And especially the people who say, I'm not sure yet. This is one of the best places they're going to go to get the information that they're going to need. And then they can decide yes or no on it.
Absolutely. No, those are exactly the people that we want there. And these are the kind of meetings we're going to be having throughout the year because they deserve a time to come and bring those concerns and questions to legislators. And I can tell you every single legislator that is working with this and has been in favor of this is more than happy to have those conversations and to, be really, honest in that front. And I really appreciate that of those people. Representative Ben Keithley, Senator Nick Schroer are both, very well versed in this issue, and I'm sure we'll be happy to have those conversations. So please come, even if you think you hate it, please come and listen and ask your question.
And maybe you'll understand why you hate it.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
fine.
especially if you think you hate it, you should come. I mean, don't bring like fruit to throw or anything like that, but you should definitely come with your questions and see what they have to say. Camelia, you alluded to this. There's going to be other events like this throughout the spring and summer leading into the election to help, educate Missourians about what this is and why we could benefit from it. Town halls, what other sorts of events do you see being planned?
Sure. So a lot of things like the town hall, and then also for your listeners, this is a big important one. This evening, you can tune into a live teletown hall with Governor Kehoe, Dr. Aaron Hedlund, Senator Curtis Trent, Representative David or Bishop Davidson. They've been handling the income tax bills in the legislature, and it's going to be like that. You can call in with your questions that you will hear from the governor himself. So if you want to be able to dial in and listen to that. We sent out text, so hopefully a lot of people got text where they can dial in as well. But if you want to just listen, just go to afpmissouri.com, and right on the banner, right at the top, there'll be a link where at 6:30 this evening you can tune in.
Okay, and are we going to see you on next Thursday, Camelia?
Yes, I will be there.
Of course.
All right. And once again, let's put out that website because you all are handling the RSVPs. Now, once again, this is free. You're not applying to come. We want you to come out there, but we are hoping for a head count. So how do people get on the RSVP list? Yeah.
Yep. If you go to afpmissouri.com, there's a little events link there at the top right-hand corner. Click on that, and you can see everything that we have coming up, and that'll be one of them.
Once again, get all that information about the town hall event at NewsTalkSTL.com. And we need some information from you, okay? We also need to know what you want to hear for your 80s Flashback Friday. Now, Jerome was telling me yesterday, and I can't believe that there are people out there like this, but there are people who don't think that the 80s music was good. They're wrong, obviously. So Jerome's kind of challenging everybody. Find that song that proves, hey, this stands up. This was great music that came from the 80s. It can be whatever genre you want. So send that to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com or just put the suggestion in one of our comments or the chat box on social media. All right, the way to get involved in the conversation here, of course, 314-912-1019 or on any of the social media platforms. And don't forget, Riley Gaines going to be on the program here at 8:05.
What happens next?
The president has ousted Bondi from that role.
Happens right here.
There was no client list. Trump is replacing Kristi Noem.
Never know what's going to happen.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Dr. Michael Lewis, West Point grad, physician, and retired Army colonel, is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s and brain health. He's also the author of When Brains Collide. Dr. Lewis, a lot of people take fish oil supplements, but how do you know they're working if you're not testing?
Elizabeth, I've come across the biggest breakthrough in my 30-plus years of medicine. What if you could test yourself at home to see if your fish oil supplements are actually working? And then have the right product, a combination of fish oil and olive oil, a perfect Mediterranean diet in a bottle delivered right to your doorstep. This is the answer to the American ultra-processed food diet. Email me at test@brainhealtheducation.org. That's test@brainhealtheducation.org.
Email Dr. Lewis today at test@brainhealtheducation.org and take the first step toward a healthier brain. Your future self will thank you. That's test@brainhealtheducation.org.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, got a little bit of a weird one here to start with. Now, congratulations. You know you're already part owner of Intel, right?
Oh.
The chip maker, the computer maker?
That's nice.
Yeah, because the government, bought a bunch of it.
So I'll be expecting my dividends when?
Well, maybe, let's not jump the gun here. Okay, just saying. And, of course, now there are the Trump accounts where the government is funding, private investments for people if you have a kid between this year and that year and all that sort of thing. And so now I found the story, and it was on Bloomberg. It was also on CNBC, and it was on a number of Wall Street Journal, and so it was a number of the business reporting that the government is close to a deal to buy 90% of Spirit Airlines. Yeah, so the government's going to buy the equity stake because Spirit is a mess, as we all know. And they tried to buy JetBlue a couple years ago. The Biden administration blocked it. So they're like close to bank. They filed bankruptcy a couple times, and so they're close to like literally liquidation. They are in such bad shape because according to their reputation, they just can't run stuff. They can't run a business.
I was going to say, I've never flown Spirit
No,
Airlines,
I never have
but
either.
the only time I've ever heard of them is when somebody in like the media is making fun of them.
Right. And so apparently the business is so bad that the federal government may be buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I one of the things I strive to do despite being in the media is I try to be intellectually consistent. And when the government buys the private businesses, or when the government runs the business, when taxpayers are all taxed in order to fund one particular thing, especially something that's competing in the private sector, we used to have a word for that.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
I know.
I can almost taste it.
There used to be a word for that because it's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And the word literally is socialism.
Yeah.
And so the question I'm going to put out there then is, I mean, this isn't even debatable. Just by definition, Trump accounts are socialism.
Yes.
By definition, buying any sort of influential or controlling or any stake in a private industry so that the government can run part of it. So the government investing in it, and not even so much to get the return back, but so that you're making decisions. Because remember, Trump bought it and it was putting pressure on the CEO for Intel. And now the Trump administration saying the federal government's going to buy literally possibly up to 90% of an airline that's competing with other airlines. This is by definition socialism. So is socialism only bad for those of us on the right when the other party does it, and it's okay when we do it?
Oh, of course. I mean, I'm still not over these Trump accounts because they did not fix the issues with the 14th Amendment allowing for birthright citizenship even to non-citizen children of non-citizens. And I looked into it, and Trump accounts can, in fact, the $1,000 initial investment from the government, aka the taxpayers.
Right. We all fund that.
Yeah. So if any, and we already know that there are plenty of illegals that can figure out how to run a daycare scam or a Medicare scam or any. So their kids, people that birth tourist kids, if they are aware of the program, they can actually have $1,000 placed into their non-citizen child's account if they're born between.
Well, but right now, the kid's recognized as a citizen, unless the court rules differently, which even President Trump says, I think I'm going to lose this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it was really, I think, reckless and not very well thought out about the ramifications of a program like this when we still have some 18 plus million people that came in open bordered, thank you, Joe Biden policies.
Right.
Now, Scooter points out, though, we need to go back to regulating the airlines pre-Carter. The airlines will be more stable, more reliable, and more healthy financially.
Well, they're pretty heavily regulated now. I mean, I don't think they're unregulated now. I mean, and to me, I get what he's saying, but the regulations on the airlines is one thing. We're talking about the government buying an equity stake in the airlines or any business. In this case, it's Spirit Airlines. So like if I go fly somewhere and I book a flight on Southwest or Delta or whoever, then I'm literally, as a tax-paying part owner of Spirit, I'm actually literally working against my own financial interest. Although I'm never going to get a return from the taxpayer dollars buying Spirit. It just means that whoever happens to be in the administration is going to be basically a default part of the board of directors of one particular industry. This is not conservatism.
No.
And here's the thing: is I'm not supposed to say this stuff on a conservative radio station, but I'm a conservative guy. I'm a conservatarian guy. I'm a free market guy. I'm a constitutionalist, and I don't care if it's somebody with an R or a D behind their name. When they step out of bounds, they step outside the lane of what they're supposed to be doing. They step outside the constitutional bounds, and they step outside of the free market and the conservative principles that they're supposed to uphold. It's our job in conservative media to call them out regardless of who it is. I just wish more conservative media would do that.
I can hear the pitchforks coming already, Mike.
We're in Maryland Heights, everybody. Come get me.
This spring, spring into savings with Johnson Heating and Cooling. Rebates up to $600 off a complete HVAC system. And here's the deal. Purchase a complete system and get a free humidifier. Plus, financing available up to 0% for 60 months. Don't miss out. These offers expire June 30th. Visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com. That's johnson-heatingandcooling.com. Johnson Heating and Cooling. Your comfort, our priority.
Dreaming about a vacation but not sure where to start? Should you book that all-inclusive resort or a cruise? Which destination? What cruise line? And how do you know you're getting the best value? That's where Magic Expeditions comes in. We're your St. Louis local travel experts, helping you choose the vacation that fits. Whether a relaxing adults-only escape, family-friendly resort, or unforgettable cruise adventure, skip the stress, the guessing, and endless online searching. Visit magicexpeditions.com. That's magicexpeditions.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show. I am here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, entrepreneurship, it's one of those buzzwords we hear a lot about, but is entrepreneurship really important to the economy?
It definitely is. Entrepreneurship is a consistent contributor to economic growth. It creates new products and services that people value. It creates the new businesses that provide them. It fosters innovation that improves productivity, and it increases beneficial competition. It generates jobs, income, wealth mobility, and even tax revenues that all support and enhance communities. Entrepreneurship matters, so we need to help it thrive in all our communities.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Lower your car payment today. Lower your car payment today. Yes, you heard us right. You can lower your car payment right now by making this free call and save up to $1,400 a year on your current car payments. Think about your current car payment right now. What's that costing you per year? Now think about what it would be like to put an extra $1,400 back in your pocket. That's the average savings our customers experience. We can help you drive the same car and pay less every month by lowering your car payment's interest rate to as low as 4.67%. At Rate Genius, we can work with you to refinance any car payment. If you qualify, it costs you nothing to find out how you can lower your car payment. To learn more, call this number right now.
800-493-5670. 800-493-5670. 800-493-5670. That's 800-493-5670.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. Israeli and Lebanese officials due to meet today in Washington looking to extend a fragile 10-day ceasefire that began last week.
The meeting comes as local authorities said 3 separate Israeli strikes killed at least 6 people and wounded others in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, the prospects of talks between Iran and the U.S. to end the war in the Middle East is uncertain. Pakistan had planned to host another round of talks this week, but the White House has suspended Vice President Vance's planned trip to Islamabad, while Iran accused the U.S. of a lack of good faith in negotiations. Iran fired on 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz on Wednesday and seized 2 of them. The attacks came a day after President Trump extended the ceasefire while maintaining an American blockade of Iranian ports. I'm Karen Shamas.
A circuit court has ruled Virginia's new Democrat-friendly congressional map unconstitutional. An injunction blocks the map from being certified and going into effect. An appeal to the Virginia Supreme Court is expected. Federal Appeals Court has blocked California's law requiring federal agents to wear identification.
The appellate court's order favors the Trump administration, which had filed a lawsuit in November challenging the 2025 law requiring federal immigration agents to wear a badge or some form of ID. The administration argued that California's law would threaten the safety of officers who are facing harassment, doxing, and violence. A 3-judge panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued an injunction pending appeal. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Senate Republicans have voted to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security for 3 years. Now, The matter goes to the House for its consideration. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures in the red. The Dow futures down 351 points. NASDAQ futures off 129. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards the mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chan Scotch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
I'm in my late 60s. My husband died a few years ago. He did all of our taxes. I sold a piece of property last year, and I forgot to claim the proceeds of the sale. Next thing I know, I got a letter from the IRS telling me that I owe over $50,000. Now I have a huge tax problem. I don't have that kind of money. I wish I knew who to call.
If you sold property in the last calendar year or didn't claim all of your part-time or even retirement income, you could be in big trouble with the IRS. Call first before they send you a letter. If you've already got a letter, call. We'll help you file years of past tax returns and save you time and money. So call the tax doctor. The call is confidential and free.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Is there anything in your life that is not Trauma Olympics?
Susie Moore.
Get out of here and stop playing victim.
Get up, St. Louis.
There's no crying in baseball.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, how fast things change here. Yesterday, we kind of wake up to the news that Virginia voters basically gave 4 more seats in the U.S. House to Democrats. I mean, that's what we were talking about yesterday.
Right.
Today, we get the news that may not happen because of a court ruling.
Maybe.
Like the whole election.
Maybe.
We'll see how that goes. Okay, we're going to dig into this in more depth at 6:20. Normally, because when there's like legal stuff, obviously we've got Susie sitting right here. I want to do this, but I've also learned that let Susie get some coffee into her system before I say dig into like the complex stuff.
Yeah, I don't roll out of bed ready to go like deep dive legal analysis.
But here's the thing. Okay, so here's the bigger picture. We've brought this up a time or two because we get so caught up in the moment. You know, we get caught in the moment that the Republicans lost that election. I mean, just when you count the votes up, the Republicans lost. I know Donald Trump is claiming it was rigged and there was a big, ballot. There's no evidence of it, but whatever. That he loses an election, it must be rigged. But, everybody, I mean, Scott Jennings and the others, they're all recognizing that the votes just didn't go the Republicans' way. Mm-hmm. The Democrats just won that election. But it shows you how high stakes every single one of the 435 U.S. House seats are.
Yes.
Every single one. Every single one is worth millions or tens of millions of dollars in campaigns and investments when there's, whether it's redistricting or whether this was never supposed to be the way that the federal government got into every aspect of our lives, regulating every part of the economy, every part of our businesses, every part of our personal lives. And so the stakes are so high, you can't take anyone for granted. So while we look at the campaigns and we look at the races and we look at the votes and we look at the policy, every single time what I hope everybody does is look back and say, or look at the bigger picture and go, government is way too big and the federal government was never, ever constitutionally supposed to be the most dominant force in our lives.
Yeah.
The state governments were supposed to be the most important points of government in our lives. And the state governments have been swallowed up by the federal government to the point now where we have a vested interest in what happens in Virginia, right here in St. Louis. We have a vested interest in what happens in California.
Yeah.
We have a vested interest in what happens in Texas. And that's not the grand experiment that was designed.
It's true. I mean, it really does underscore that. And then, of course, it leads to the question, okay, what, if anything, can be done about that? I don't know that can, it's like gravitational pull. Like, can that be reversed? I don't know. But yeah, to your point, when any one out of the 435 ends up being like the be all end all, that's a serious problem.
Yeah.
And to that point, I mean, we've had a massive amount of resignations and not running for re-elections, which that's fine. But then we just had someone die in office yesterday.
Right.
A Democrat
Yeah.
from Georgia. There's a Republican in New Jersey that's apparently been AWOL for 6 weeks due to health reasons, and no one seems to know what's going on with him.
Another one of those cases, because there was a Democrat before, the exact same thing.
Well, and then there was Kay Granger in Texas.
Yeah.
That she was a Republican. This is Tom Dean out of New Jersey.
See, I hadn't even heard about that.
I just saw it. It just
Wow.
came up. But yeah, I mean, like so this is, each one of those seats matters. And overnight, the Senate, did its work on the DHS funding. That's going to go back to the House. Those votes in the House are going to matter. So it's so involved and messy.
And it's all become about the political parties, and it's not about us. Now they're going to argue, no,
It's not about you, Mike.
We're fighting for you. We're fighting for you. But no, it's about the Republicans and Democrats. And see, that's the thing is like, I wasted a lot of time, being involved in the Libertarian Party, which is a complete waste of time. But there are things that I'm like, they're right about it. They're just incompetent to do anything about it, and they don't want to win.
Right. It was ideologically sound, but politically inexpedient.
They're the smartest people at the coffee clutch at the little diner. I mean, that's good for you. And they're also sometimes the dumbest in the same time. But that's the thing where we see what should be, we see what is not, and I think you're right. I don't think there's any coming back from it at this point.
So then, okay, how do you mitigate it? Like,
Right.
How do you?
Right. Well, then we have to fight the fight.
Right.
Knowing this is not the fight we should be fighting, but it's the fight that's thrust upon us.
Right.
And so that's just kind of my rant and annoyance today, because it's funny because I used to be one of those young people, especially when I kind of discovered politics and media when I was in college and studying to go into broadcasting and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of young people get really fired up about their political party or their activist group or whatever. And you're like, great, they're involved, but it's a career and they approach it the same way. And these are people who end up in state legislatures, people end up working in staff, and people, they look at it the same way that, like, when I was a kid, I desperately wanted to play Major League Baseball because I wanted to win. I wanted to win the game. And I think for a lot of people, it's about, I want to get in and win the game. We're talking about the government leaving us alone and allowing us to flourish in our own lives, or hoping the government gives us permission to it, or if you're more on the left, the government funding it to guarantee that we have the government funding it.
Sure. Yeah. I do think we need to focus in on the fact that Mike is acknowledging he was once a young person.
It used to be. I mean, yes. Listen, I used to be young.
I used to be young and idealist.
Nobody ever believes this, but I used to be young and I used to be good looking. I'm not kidding. I used to be.
There you go, folks. News you can only get here.
That's right. Once upon a time.
But no, I mean, I think that's true probably in all kinds of fields, but particularly in politics, since that directly involves the governance of our country and our localities. Yeah, I mean, there is that sort of idealistic fervor and the idea, with the stars in your eyes about Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
Right.
I think it's hard. I mean, I think that's a good ideal to hold on to. Yeah. But I also do think that swamp grinds people down.
Yeah, the idealism got run over by realism.
By a reindeer. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah. It is hard to know then, okay, what is realistic? Like what, like God grant me the serenity. Like what are the things I can control and do something about, and what are the things I can't?
Right.
So you got to find that sweet spot between complete apathy, like just tuning out because I don't know.
Yeah.
And getting so involved and so like torn up over it that you can't function either.
That's why I kind of preach decompress, on your days off, your weekends, I mean, you guys rarely hear from me on Saturdays, right? Yeah, Sunday, my Sunday afternoon or evening, I'm checking in to get ready for a Monday show. But
it's true.
Friday, I leave here after our meeting and get my post-production stuff done, and I'm off.
Yeah, which is the way it should be.
We should do more of that. And that's going to get harder and harder to do as we get closer to the elections.
It is. Yeah. It is.
But there are things that you do want federal government to get right. Josh Hawley, did you see him talking about Planned Parenthood and the funding that's going to it still from our tax dollars?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to the pro-life stuff and the opposing the gender ideology nonsense, for all of Josh Hawley's faults, he's about as solid as you get on those things.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have anybody I don't think you got anybody more pro-life than Josh Hawley. You got other people as pro-life as him, but he gets it. And here's part of what he said. He was basically pushing an amendment to block funding for Planned Parenthood. Here's what he said.
President, this amendment poses a simple and direct question. Should we use federal tax dollars to pay for transgender surgeries and treatments for minor children? More specifically, should we divert money from Medicaid, a program that is dedicated to the most needy among us, and use it instead to pay for risky, dangerous, irreversible transgender drugs and surgeries for minor children? Because, Madam President, that's what's been happening. For years, outfits like Planned Parenthood have gotten billions of dollars from Medicaid and Medicare, billions of dollars taken from the elderly, from the poor, from the needy, paid out to them, which they can then use for transgender surgeries, treatments, drugs for minor children. They proudly advertise it on their websites. One recent study found that in 3 years alone, Planned Parenthood got $1.5 billion from Medicaid and Medicare, money to be used on these risky surgeries and procedures for our children. This is wrong, Madam Chairman. This is a terrible misuse of federal funds, and we should put a stop to it today. I asked for a yes vote.
Yeah, so that was, he's right. He's just...
Yeah, he's right. So, do we know what amendment that he was offering up and what it was to? I know they were
on the video.
They did the vote-a-rama last night in the Senate. Okay, and I guess I will confess confusion because part of the OBBB that was passed last year defunded, or part of the reconciliation maybe.
I think it was reconciliation.
Defunded Planned Parenthood because I covered the court cases challenging that, which ultimately it turned out the right way, at least for now.
Now, was that from Medicaid and Medicare? That was the defunding, or is that from the overall budget? Because he's talking about specifically claims being paid out for Medicaid and Medicare.
I think it was from the overall budget, so that might be why there's this distinction that he's arguing for. That's what I was trying to put together in my head, because I know that there was that pull of funding because, again, I covered the lawsuits over it. So I guess there's other revenue streams through the government that are still funding Planned Parenthood and others like that. So
yeah. But you give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
There's some things Josh Hawley is really solid on.
Yeah.
And this is one of them.
He's
very, very good at it. And by the way, speaking of pro-life matters and, of course, the whole transgender nonsense stuff, Riley Gaines is going to be on the show today.
I heard.
Yes, 8:05. The one and only Riley Gaines right here on Mike Ferguson in the Morning.
Well, the redistricting fight in Virginia is not over. A judge blocks the results from going into effect. We're going to explain what that means at 6:20. Making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now.
You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.
Get Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Good morning, St. Louis. Hey, it's Vince from The Vince Show right here on News Talk STL every weeknight at 8. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Okay, that was fast. A judge says not so fast.
Record scratcher.
Yeah. So basically, the proverbial ink on the Virginia election results not even dry, and the judge blocks the state from moving forward with implementing basically the process to get to that new gerrymandered map. So this is, you mentioned yesterday, and Terry mentioned yesterday, Terry Christoph from redstate.com mentioned yesterday that, there have been like build up to the lawsuits and the legal work had already been underway. So the $100,000 or $100,000 vote difference, pretty clear, that's how Virginians voted. But it's the technicalities of it and the Virginia law around elections is what's being looked at. So Scott Jennings was commenting on that on CNN, which we'll get his take on that in just a second. But at this point, the ruling that the judge has issued means what? It's not the end of the story by any stretch.
No, it just means for the moment, everything's frozen in place. The state is appealing it, so it'll go up to an intermediate court of appeals in the state, and it'll ultimately go before the Virginia Supreme Court. There may be other lawsuits pending, too. This one was already in the works. This is a win, but it's a win at the trial court level, and there's 2 layers of appeal above that. And as Terry kind of was intimating yesterday, no guarantee. Now, I think the judge's decision is well-founded. I think there are multiple flaws with how this process played out. And so I think that he can make a good argument as to why he's ruled the correct way. But whether the appellate courts will agree or find some reason to disagree,
right?
I'm just not going to hold my breath.
Right, yeah, because now nobody's challenging the numerical results. We're talking about...
No, this isn't about the election itself. It's about how the process was done to get to that.
So they were discussing this on CNN yesterday, obviously with all the news channels. Here is part of the discussion that Scott Jennings was contributing.
Well, I do think we would have benefited from more spending early on. I think the Yes campaign got out to a fast start. I mean, if you followed the race closely, the No people had momentum at the end, and maybe another week or two they might have caught them. It was about a 3-point race. Regarding the whole rigged conversation, I'll just say I think a lot of people in Virginia Republican circles think it was rigged in this way, that the referendum itself is a violation of the Virginia Constitution. I spoke to former Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli on my radio show just a few minutes ago. He thinks the Virginia Supreme Court may well throw this out because they violated the calendar rules that are in the Virginia Constitution, among other arguments. Even though the Democrats won the race last night, this may not be over if the Virginia Supreme Court were to toss it maybe as soon as May.
Okay, so here's the comment that from Ken Cuccinelli that he was referring to.
You know, I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'd be betting on no in the courts, even though they lost by a couple of points yesterday at the ballot box.
Well, it's, I take that seriously. Ken Cuccinelli knows whereof he speaks.
Right.
And so, maybe he's got more optimism than I do.
He would certainly know the Virginia laws and the Constitution.
He would, and he also knows the players involved in terms of the judges that are going to be looking at this. Now, I think, if you just look at it from an ideological perspective, it's not necessarily in our favor. But if they follow the law and do what they're supposed to do and don't find some out, then maybe he's right.
Yeah, because, for instance, in let's just look at Missouri, because this is in our backyard. The state Supreme Court is hesitant to do anything that would overturn an election. Hesitant to really mess with it. And there have been times where it looks like statutes and procedures and things were not followed to the T. But especially once a vote has happened, in Missouri, the Supreme Court kind of has a reputation of not being really interested in overturning something that's already been voted on, lock, stock, and barrel. Because this ruling says those election results, that's as far as it goes at this point, because that obviously gives the green light to the assembly to do other things. And they're like, you can't do it. You can't even certify those election results at this point.
Right.
So
just
the
freezes it all in
whole
place.
kit and caboodle is on hold. And so obviously Republicans are going to be very hopeful about that. How hopeful should they be before you start worrying about Florida?
I mean, don't ever give up till it's over.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those situations that I'm not holding my breath on.
Yeah.
I think, again, I haven't dissected the judge's opinion, and I'm not an expert on Virginia law. But I think there are very strong arguments as to why this election and referendum were flawed. And if the appellate courts look at it from an objective standpoint and just following the law, I think there's a decent chance that they're going to say, yeah, this wasn't done by the book. We're sorry you have this election, and we're not saying you can't do it in the future, but if you're going to do it, you have to do it the right way. That could happen. I'm just not somebody who's overly optimistic on that, just because I know, how things seem to tend to go.
So literally the range in the end result could be, we accept the election results, Democrats pick up 4 more seats in the U.S. House is the practical thing. 2, you either do it over or you don't, this one doesn't count. So, or somewhere in between.
Well, the do-over,
or is there an in-between?
I don't think there really is an in-between. Either this one counts or it doesn't. If there's a do-over, that's something that they're going to have to come back down the line and do, not in this election cycle.
Right.
It's just physically impossible. So if the courts find, you know what, you violated the Constitution to do this, you can't do it this way, this election cannot stand, then that's a win for the Republicans for the 2026 elections. Fantastic. I will be, popping the cork off the champagne myself and being all about it. I'm just not I'm not going to be overly optimistic about that until we get a ruling.
And this is before we get into some of the questions about the wording on the ballot, because
so that was also
a separate thing.
But that's part of this ruling, part of his ruling. Yeah. He addressed that as well. He addressed, first of all, the structure, the timing of it, the following of the procedures, but he also addressed the wording of the measure itself, pointing out that it was kind of impermissibly vague. It was to restore fairness or whatever. Right. It was very,
which is very subjective,
very much so. So the ruling from Tazewell, the trial court judge in Virginia, covers that as well.
Is that the judge's name, or that's where the court is located? Because there's a city called Tazewell.
I thought it was the judge's name.
Is that the judge's name? I'm just curious because
Tazewell. Oh, it's Jack Hurley.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I'm going to have to go back and look at our article on that. Maybe we got it wrong in our article. So, correction. Judge Jack Hurley in Tazewell County.
Tazewell, yeah.
So
Which by the way, my family was one of the founders of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Tazewell, people, Virginia, you're welcome for that City Hall and stuff.
Shout out to Tazewell.
That could have been my inheritance, but no.
Shout out to Tazewell.
Great Grandpa Samuel decided to give it to you all.
This is a good example of what happens when Susie is editing like 25 articles in a given day and trying to write and trying to keep track of it all.
Yeah.
She, her
well,
brain.
if there weren't a fluke connection with my family, I wouldn't.
Her brain conflates those things. Yes. But in any event, Judge Hurley's decision does cover both the procedural aspects of it and then also the wording itself. So both aspects will be what's looked at on appeal.
Yeah, and you would think and you would hope now because Mayorkas is no longer the AG there.
Mears.
I'm sorry, Mears. Yeah, Mears is not the.
I was like Mayorkas, and you're giving me like flashback to the Biden administration.
No. Mears is no longer
it's
the
Jay
Attorney
Jones,
General.
the
Jay
psycho.
Jones, who's the one who's appealing this.
Yes.
So they had a friendly, obviously, administration as far as the state government goes. You would think they would be more careful to make sure that everything is done, by the book to do this. So to some degree, Democrats may have been just careless.
Well, I think they were under pressure time-wise. There were time constraints. So I think they maybe took the approach of, screw it. Let's just do what we can and push it through and hope that it sticks. But yeah, they were racing against the clock and they pushed it through as best they could. And it seemingly worked if they're able to hold on to this. But
by my count, we're 7 months away from the primary election or the midterm elections.
Yes.
So the clock is still a massive factor. So at this point, then it goes to what, a state court of appeals or where? Okay.
Yeah. So it'll go to the. I should correct that. It's possible because it involves elections that it could go straight to the state Supreme Court and not go to the intermediate court of appeals. I'm just not sure how that works in Virginia.
Right.
One way or another, it's going to an appellate court. So there's either going to be 2 more layers of appellate review or 1 layer of appellate review. It will end up at the Virginia Supreme Court.
Without question. And it really kind of has to get there quick.
One
way or
be,
the other, it has to be there quick.
This will be like in a matter of weeks. Like we're talking about 2-3 weeks down the road, there will be a ruling.
Again, going back to how high the stakes are in every single
very
US
much
House race.
so. Yeah.
Yep, without a doubt. All right. That's going to be fascinating to watch. It's
is.
real wonky and legalese and stuff, but I think everybody understands how much this affects our lives.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's serious stuff.
You know what else affects our life?
What's that?
Flashback Friday.
And
it does.
That's more important and it's better.
And it just smells better, it tastes better. Your money back guaranteed if you don't enjoy it.
That's right.
Which is the pledge that I'm hoping to make this week because of 80s music I want to hear. It can be any genre, it can be any singer as long as it's clean music. But there are songs from the 80s that I guarantee you if you showed somebody that hates 80s music, they would even have to say, wow, that was a really good song. Those are the songs that I want. So send them to me, Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Mike Ferguson.
It's a Will Mannett,
Susie Moore.
and woman at
On Newstalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chan Scotch.
This year, America turns 250, and Newstalk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. Newstalk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration. Doghouse Bar and Grill, Augusta Chamber of Commerce, and Ruthie's Family Restaurants. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hi, this is St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder reminding you to check out my new show this weekend.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
That's me. Every Sunday evening at 5, we will explore with you behind-the-scenes stories and information that you won't hear anywhere else. Plus, we talk to decision makers and influencers that have impact on what's going on in St. Louis County and beyond.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
I'll talk to you Sunday night at 5, only on News Talk STL.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators. They're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here.
Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1.
And always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Hey, this is Carl Higbee, host of Frontline on Newsmax TV, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Hey, just quick, let me just kind of put this out there and ask people. When you're watching this on, whether it's Rumble or Facebook or X or whatever, matter of fact, I need to do this myself right now, please do the like or the heart or whatever it is and the share or repost thing, because we're up against national corporate media. We're up obviously against a lot of social media platforms that do not want your voice heard. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. And so use their algorithms against them. So please, if you do it every once in a while, about once or twice a year, I want hey, remember, you're listening, you're watching, and I can't thank you enough for that. Share that. Say, hey, there's a local radio station here. If you're listening or watching from around the country, hey, here are some folks that have a unique perspective. Here's a conversation. Get involved in, and please take that. Please just take that extra 10 seconds and put that out there.
Sharing is caring.
It is caring, and we talk about how important every single fight is. Well, this is the battlefront.
It is.
This is the ideological and the electoral battlefront at this point. So yeah, please just take an extra second or two. And if you're not already following us on Facebook or Twitter or X or Rumble, listen, conservatives, libertarians, you need to be on Rumble.
Yes, you do.
YouTube finds ways to block us and get us, get us off there. They've thrown us off a couple times already. But this is where we win, at least in the digital sphere. All right, so we mentioned this a little bit earlier. What happens in other states and other parts of the world, of course, affects us. Mm-hmm. RedState.com keeps us up to date on all of that. So, Susie, what is hot on RedState.com today?
This is the Red State Rundown.
Speaking of other places affecting us, the big gubernatorial debate was held last night in California. Bob Hogue has a kind of a scorecard on that. Who killed it? Who bombed? He tells you. He watched it very closely because, of course, his wife is in charge of the California GOP in L.A. So good breakdown, good rundown from Bob. And it sounds like, now, of course, we're homers, but it does sound like that the two Republican top candidates actually did fairly well, that Katie Porter looked better but didn't do great, and that Javier Becerra is still boring as all hell. But yeah, definitely check that out because, whoever's going to be the next governor of California will someday be touted as who's going to be the next president, I'm sure. So keep an eye on that one. We've got a VIP article from Strife. This is kind of interesting. Let me a little kind of a deep granular dive on this. From lithium to rare earths, new U.S. technologies threaten China's toxic grip on critical minerals. This is an important arena, a battlefield that kind of gets underplayed because it's a little techie, but it's worth taking a look at. And then, just for a little bit of fun, our friend Brad Slager yesterday, on the occasion of Earth Day, took a look at some of the many different stances taken regarding climate change, climate crisis, and he's got an article that's titled "On Earth Day, Oysters with STDs, Witch Executions, and How More and Fewer Clouds Are Good and Bad News."
Oysters with STDs?
Yes, that's part of this whole equation.
I mean, oysters are slutty? Are they? And they don't use protection?
If you want to know more, you have to read Brad's article.
Wow.
It's worth checking out.
Well, you got my interest.
That's the thing that draws Mike in.
I'm allergic to them, not just because
Clams with crabs.
God. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's here the funny part is that the story that I had put in here that I wanted to mention because it's so stupid is actually kind of maybe tame compared to that. Did you see this in Columbia? I mean, Columbia, Missouri. There was an arrest made. You would think that taking your kids to go to the grocery store, the kids don't want to go in the first place most of the time.
Right.
But taking your kid to the grocery store shouldn't be eventful. You get in, get your stuff, get out.
Right.
So there's an Aldi in Columbia. I think there's a couple, but I think this is the one right off of I-70, right there off that business loop.
Okay.
I used to live in Columbia, so I think that's the one that it's at. And a guy named Sidney Jones, 41 years old, who lives in Columbia, has been arrested. He went into Aldi, and there's the security cam footage of this. And then, unfortunately, there's also some social media cell phone footage of this as well. So Sidney Jones walks into the Aldi in Columbia on April 18th. So I guess this would have been last, Thursday, Friday, something like that. And strips down to nothing, gets in his birthday suit, and just starts dancing.
As one does.
I mean, he just got a great deal on some oysters.
Apparently he did, yes. And you don't know where those oysters have been, Sydney. Just saying that,
Apparently you need to find out more about them.
And he just starts dancing. He didn't chase anybody or yell at anybody or threaten anybody. He just got into his birthday suit and started dancing in Aldi.
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
Me. I was just thinking,
No, you're way to hold out for Deerbergs because you're more classy.
It's true. I feel like the lighting is better.
Yes.
I just honestly, that's what I was thinking
don't,
about.
Don't go slumming.
Right. Yeah. I might be going on a limb here, but I feel like could there maybe be drugs involved?
Apparently, there is the possibility that they are investigating that there might have been substances involved in this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bath salts.
That we don't know yet.
Okay.
It's funny because I'm looking at the article on this, and you know how now what happens is they will have bullet points at the top of each story.
Yeah.
And those are generally generated by AI in these programs.
Sure.
And the first bullet point is what charge was filed against Sidney Jones in Missouri. Okay, well, then they explain that in the article. The next one is what legal action is Missouri Attorney General taking against Kratom and 7-0H?
Coincidence?
Yeah, maybe.
Coincidence? So, okay, let's think this through. I mean, I'm trying not to
Not
overly
too
think
much.
it,
It's
but let's think this
6:39
through.
in the morning, but yeah.
You're at the grocery store. You're
Right.
minding your own business, doing your grocery shopping, and this gentleman comes in, strips naked, and starts dancing.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, of course, what people do is the story says they'll basically, parents who had kids there are grabbing their kids and rush them off, which
Right.
you would think. But everybody else, what do? You pull out your phone and you start recording.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's the first time I heard about the story is it unfortunately showed up in my feed to the point where I wanted to put forks in my eyes.
Now, that's interesting because I did see the headline.
Yeah.
I didn't see the
Yeah.
video, viral
He
video
was
of it.
standing up on top of some thing. and
Oh,
was-
he even got on a stage,
Yeah,
did he?
got- and at
Okay.
one point he was in the vestibule area where you kept. I mean, it was. Man.
I need to text my daughter. I mean, she shops at that Aldi sometimes. I'll have to
Yeah,
ask
you
her.
know which one I'm talking about, right? Right
yeah.
there off the business
Oh, yeah,
loop. Yeah.
No, and that's what I'm saying. She shops there sometimes.
There might be another. I haven't lived in Columbia in a long, long, long time. There might be another one by now, but I think
there might be one south of town.
Yeah, it didn't say, but I'm pretty sure based on the description, I think it's the one up there by the business loop.
Yeah, I'll have to ask her about that.
Man,
because I do know she shops there. But I feel like I would have gotten a text. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. She's a grown up. She doesn't
Hopefully
necessarily
she-
need to share everything with her mom anymore. But
Yeah, hopefully she wasn't there at that time.
yeah.
I'm just saying. It's like if you're gonna do naked dancing at the grocery store.
Okay, so
all
every
these- and of course, what's really big in Columbia is Schnucks is really big in Columbia, and that's
Hy-Vee.
Hy-Vee is Hy-Vee. The Hy-Vee, yeah. And so that's like Aldi's to Hy-Vee, or here it'd be like Aldi's to Deerbergs. That's like the difference between Skanky Strip Club and Gentleman's Club. So he's clearly not in the career path that he wants to be in on naked grocery store dancing.
I think we should take a moment to think about the fact that you started a sentence with, if you're going to dance naked in a grocery
Right,
store.
yeah.
Because, I don't know if those words have ever been spoken in that order before.
No, this is why people come to this program and this radio station for the intellectual challenge
Heft.
that we give. Yes. I was going to say intellectual stimulation, but I just didn't seem to be the right word on that.
No, definitely not. Yeah. I mean, you got to figure, think about what were the life choices that led up to this is what's going to be on my epitaph.
Oh man!
And he wants to dance naked in an Aldi.
That's a good PSA. I mean, the whole PSA to scare kids into the right direction is don't be like Sydney.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah. Don't be a Sydney.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a career path I think anyone should be pursuing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
He's
what
still
to do
being
with
held in Boone County Jail. They're not letting him out.
Well, I mean, depending on what they charge him with, they're only going to be able to hold him so long because they don't. I mean, it's probably not going to be like a felony.
It's a sexual. He's charged with.
Oh, it could be a felony, I guess.
Yeah, he is charged. Let me
Decent
pull it.
exposure.
Let's see here. Probable cause statement. Let's see here.
I'm sure.
First degree sexual misconduct. But it is a misdemeanor.
That's what I was going to say. I don't feel like this rises to felony level.
Yeah. Additional court documents say that Jones is now banned from all Aldi locations.
Well, that's a good call.
Yeah, he was booked into jail without bond.
I wonder if they're getting some sort of psych eval.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. I'm going to have to ping my daughter and ask her. Did you hear about the Aldi situation? What's going on?
Now, do we know what kind of dance he was doing? Was he doing the hokey pokey? Was he breakdancing?
Yeah.
Was he waltzing with some imaginary friend of his?
Yeah, I didn't look that close.
Yeah. No, I've been scared to do any more investigating on it.
Now, if I was the manager of that Aldi's, though, you have to run a special ad saying deals you'll dance for or something.
Right.
Yes.
Deals so good you'll freak out.
Right.
Yes.
Deals so good that make you want to take your clothes off and dance the night away. Yeah, but okay, aside from the pulling out your phone and videoing it, honestly, setting that aside because we live in the social media age, I feel like I would be torn between getting the hell out of there and just standing there what is going on?
Yeah, I would probably go, all right, I'm going to go to the other side of the store because I still need to get my food. I'm going to let them deal with this. I am not getting involved in this unless somebody starts hurting somebody else. I'm let the cops deal with that.
Well, I definitely wouldn't get involved.
No.
I'd be staying,
I mean,
definitely
if he's
staying a safe distance away.
Yeah, and there's no report, there's no indication that he was trying to touch anybody or threatening anybody.
Well, and you can tell he's
that.
not armed.
Clearly.
So there's that.
Yeah, they did not have to do a pat down.
Right.
I guess it depends on how much I needed something in the aisle that he's dancing in, because there are times where I'm in a hurry. I got stuff to do, and I'm like, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, but you get your hummus cheaper there. I mean, it just
and he might be standing.
There are trade-offs.
Yeah, so if he's standing in front of if I need some bread, excuse me, sir, very politely. But
as you do, with your cart. Excuse me, sorry. Oh, sorry. You know that little
shimmy over there, please.
You know that little aisle dance you do when you're both coming down the opposite direction with the car.
Because
sorry,
somebody's going the
me.
wrong way and they don't understand the rules of the road.
Wait a second. They're not one-way aisles, right? It's not COVID era.
There's just an understanding. But then again, there's an understanding you don't strip naked and dance in Aldi. But
I feel like that's really basic.
I mean, there's not a sign or anything. You're just supposed to know that.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America, Mike.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to have a town hall over it. I know we do need to have a town hall over the Road to Zero income tax. That's coming up next Thursday, April 30th at the Lodge de Pere. Think about this. What if Missouri eliminated its income tax entirely? Mm-hmm. Find out how at the Road to Zero Income Tax Town Hall. It's hosted by NewsTalkSTL's own Mike Ferguson, joined by Senator Nick Schroer and Representative Ben Keithley. Come ready with your questions. Get the facts on the plan to phase out Missouri's income tax for good. Thursday, April 30th at the Lodge de Pere, presented by AFP Missouri and Mo Tax Relief Now. RSVP today at afpmissouri.com.
I've spent a lot of time telling you about the great stuff that I get at Nutrition Stop. Mike Ferguson here for Nutrition Stop in St. Peter's, just off Mexico Road. But let me tell you what they've done for me. since I've started working with Ryan and with Barbara and with Laura and with Zach and the whole team there at Nutrition Stop is I've gotten to a point in my life where I used to get comments that like, oh, you look good for your age. You look like you're in pretty good shape for your age. I don't want to be fit for my age now that I'm in my 50s. I don't want to, feel good for my age. I don't want to be strong for my age. I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. I want to be strong. I want to have a full life because I'm healthy, not because it's pretty good bar for my age. Hey, Mike, you're in pretty good shape for your age. How about you're in pretty good shape? Well, I'm healthier than I've been in years, and it's because I'm putting good, healthy things into my body and on my body. I get my things like deodorant and toothpaste and stuff without all those chemicals. I've stopped putting that stuff in my body, and you do that at Nutrition Stop. NutritionStop.com is where you get more information, but go check them out in person. Tell them that Mike was talking about them on the radio. And the bigger picture here is not the supplements necessarily, not the fruits, not the fresh food, not the body care products. It's the fact that you don't have to settle for doing okay for your age, whatever that age is. It's be healthy, be fit, be strong, do it naturally, because that's the only way you're going to be able to do it fully. NutritionStop.com, just off Mexico Road near Cave Springs and I-70. Check them out, and you will see why they have made such a huge difference in my life.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
If you love your pet, which I know you do, then they deserve the excellent treatment and care they'll receive at Pacific Animal Hospital in Pacific, Missouri, a full-service veterinarian facility. Originally built and grown by my dad, Dr. Bill Jones, a new generation of wonderful veterinarians and staff at Pacific continue to provide outstanding medical, surgical, dental, boarding, and grooming services for your favorite furry friends. Our family entrusts the care of our pets only to the experienced docs and staff at Pacific Animal Hospital. You should too. Call them today, 636-257-2100, 24/7 at PacificVets.com, PacificVets.com.
A new game day favorite is coming to Busch Stadium on Saturday, April 25th, when the Cardinals host the Seattle Mariners. That day, fans take home a Victory Blue Cardinals crewneck sweatshirt presented by Purina, a light and easy style that's perfect for spring and designed to fit right into your everyday wardrobe. Available in medium and extra large while supplies last. A limited look you'll want to wear again and again. Tickets and info at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Jose Fermin. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com.
The weekend starts here. Grab your crew and kick it off at Friday Night Live at Busch Stadium. Every Friday night home game, Budweiser Terrace turns into the hottest happy hour in the Loop with $5 beers, $5 hot dogs, $7 margaritas, live music, and more all game long. Meet up with friends, soak in the energy, and keep the night going with baseball under the lights. Good vibes, great deals, your new Friday tradition. Get tickets now at cardinals.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
Just to follow up, I just talked about Nutrition Stop, and Jerome's like, you should give this observation as well. I mean, you're more likely if you have to go to someplace where you can buy your food and somebody's stripping down and dancing naked, it's probably going to be better if it's a Nutrition Stop customer than if it's another grocery store customer.
They're probably going to be healthier.
They're going to be healthier.
Right.
They're going to be in better shape. Yeah, now, Nutrition Stop does not endorse that. I've never seen that happen.
No.
I've never seen that. I'm just saying that if it's going to happen,
the logic flows.
That's the customer base that you want.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm just saying. All right. $1 billion with a B dollar incentive deal that would support, among other things, a data center in North County. That's being considered. Is this a good idea? And the fight over gerrymandering in Virginia, not over just yet. We'll see where this goes. Cardinals heading back home after pretty much overall, I'd call this road trip pretty successful for them here. All right, 6:51 right now. Let's do the first news dump of the day here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Okay, so a data center is part of a proposed development in Ferguson, and city officials are thinking about an incentive package to make it happen. KMOV's Morgan Harris explains in this report that she filed last night. So when she refers to a meeting tomorrow, she's meaning actually today.
Developing now, leaders in Ferguson are preparing to debate a set of tax incentives that could help bring major changes to the former Emerson campus. Tomorrow, a city council meeting is taking place for a second reading on a bill that could grant over $1 billion in tax breaks to a developer who is looking to turn the space into a tech hub and a data center. This comes after the plan passed a first reading earlier this week. Now, some residents have shared concerns about those possible tax breaks.
Okay, so the meeting is tonight, and that's going to be at 7 o'clock. So you're talking huge money and huge incentives. But what's interesting is this is not just a data center. Like, for instance, the city of St. Louis is approving a data center plan to convert the Armory into a data center, which is frankly about all you can do with that thing at this point, based on where it is and the crime and all that kind of stuff. So that actually makes sense.
Right.
There. In Ferguson, the whole Emerson campus is, I mean, it's empty. And so they're talking about an entire tech hub and a data center as part of that tech hub. Now, I don't know the numbers as far as how many jobs are expected, but if the tax breaks are $1 billion, you're talking about a massive, massive investment in North County.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not wild about the
I was going to say,
I'm not wild about the tax
setting aside the
incentives and the corporate welfare here,
Right.
but you've got a campus that's pre-built.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, you know, we've seen tremendous pushback.
Yeah.
In some areas. So are you going to see that here?
Yeah, there's. It sounds like there's mixed conversations happening in Ferguson, because if you're in Ferguson, especially over the last 10, 11 years, you're like, somebody please come invest in us.
Right.
You know, you've got a town that's got a lot of really nice people in it who've been screwed over by the international news headlines.
Yes, big time.
I'm still frustrated the Ferguson brewery closed. Some good food there, man. That was a good place. I like.
I've got good news.
What you got?
Good news.
Oh, good news.
Good new brewing company is open in Ferguson.
Oh, I've never been. Okay, well, field trip. After the show, field trip. Let's do it. All right. Okay, White House says Iran is on the brink of collapse, losing as much as $500 million a day as the U.S. Navy continues its blockade as opposed to the Iranian blockade in another part of the strait. Anyway, talks fell through this week after both sides didn't show up in Pakistan for peace talks, but the ceasefire at this point still holding from the U.S. Iran's still, like, shooting at people. The Republican Senator Ted Cruz was on Fox's Hannity last night, and he says Iran's going to be forced to shut down its oil wells if there's no deal made.
Water seeps into the rock, and if you try to reopen them, production plummets. And so Iran is facing a permanent massive degradation of its ability to generate revenue, to generate income.
Okay, so basically the story is very different depending on which perspective you hear from.
Yes.
You know, Iran basically saying, nope, we're not interested in talking, we're not interested in a deal, we're holding firm. The White House says they're about to collapse. Both of those things could be true at the same time.
That could be true. I guess I'm going to look a little bit askance at people whose instinct is to believe Iran over our own leaders. I understand.
Now, we should always be skeptical of our own government.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree with that. But the fact that some people are so willing to accept Iranian propaganda and so unwilling to accept what comes out of the White House, I don't think is. I think that's maybe a jaded way of looking at things that's probably not serving you well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the best thing is look for truth and, you know, hold down. Frankly, the part of the Middle East, there's not a lot of truth that comes out of anything out there.
I mean, yeah, some of this you're gonna have to wait and see kind of how it shakes out. But
okay, so another angle to this, the Trump administration is extending the pause on sanctions, so releasing the sanctions on Russian oil. Despite Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent ruling it out days earlier, so he was going to say the sanctions were going back into place, and the White House says, nope, we're gonna continue to pause the sanctions.
Right.
It's a little confusing there. Speaking before a Senate subcommittee on Wednesday about President Trump's fiscal year budget request for the department, the Treasury Secretary defending the move to do basically Russia a favor.
I was approached by more than 10 of the most vulnerable and poorest countries in terms of energy, and they ask us to extend that sanction, and it's only for 30 days.
Okay, so critics are arguing Russia obviously is going to be profiting from the sanctions pause, which that makes sense. I mean, they're allowed to sell more stuff,
right?
And so obviously they're going to continue to fund the war against their aggression against Ukraine.
Yes. So I guess the question is like, what economic levers are being pulled into what
Right.
end? Again, I guess we have to see how it shakes out.
All right, quick programming note. Riley Gaines is going to be on the show this morning at 8:05, and I'm sure you know she's the keynote speaker for this year's Missouri Right to Life Banquet. That's happening May 20th. That's going to be in St. Charles. Ticket information is at MissouriLife.org. All right, this is interesting. A judge says the mayor, not the state, gets to appoint St. Louis's next sheriff, but she cannot do it alone. So the case is a result of former Sheriff Alfred Loaded Dice Montgomery being removed from office last year. The Attorney General's office argues that the governor gets to make that selection, but the ruling from the judge in the case says the mayor has the final say, but the ruling also says she's got to seek nominations and advice from the Board of Aldermen and also the city comptroller, which I thought was interesting as well. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, right now there's an interim sheriff who's in there, but there's some clarity to this. I don't think the state's going to fight this too hard. Because basically when there's a sheriff opening, generally speaking, the governor just appoints, but St. Louis is a charter city, so you've got the different sort of whose rules apply.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, the Cardinals lose the final game of their series with the Marlins on Thursday. Final score in Miami was 4-1. Ivan Herrera's ninth-inning home run was the Redbirds' only run, and it was one of only 3 hits they got in the entire game. So that one was a little bit rough. So they lose the series. They won 1 game out of the series. Today's a travel day. The Cardinals start a series with the Mariners on Friday, so no game today. And the thing is that the Cardinals, after, of course, they swept the Astros, so pretty successful road trip. But the Cardinals have not been swept this season. They've won at least 1 game in every series.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here, Serenity Wealth Management, your financial friend and host of the Serenity Wealth Now Show. I've got special guests joining me, Jim Brennan, this weekend with McKelvey Homes. We're going to talk a little bit about one of the biggest, most important American dreams we have, and that is home ownership. So tune in this Sunday and learn what it looks like to move up to McKelvey. Check us out Sunday mornings, 9 a.m., right here on NewsTalkSTL or on Serenity Wealth Now social media outlets. We'll see you then.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
What if Missouri eliminated its income tax entirely?
Find out how at the Road to Zero Income Tax Town Hall.
Hosted by NewsTalkSTL's own Mike Ferguson.
Joined by Senator Nick Schroer and Representative Ben Keithley.
Come ready with your questions and get the facts on the plan to phase out Missouri's income tax for good.
Thursday, April 30th at the Lodge de Pere, presented by AFP Missouri and Mo Tax Relief Now.
RSVP today at afpmissouri.com. That's afpmissouri.com.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention NewsTalk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Doing an end run around the Democrats, Republicans in the Senate vote to end the current partial government shutdown.
Senate Republicans have approved a budget plan that would fund ICE and Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security. Majority Leader John Thune.
Democrats want to defund law enforcement, defund border security.
Democratic Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island.
It unlocks reconciliation, a process that will allow Republicans to ram through another partisan bill that finds and funds 2 rogue federal agencies.
Democrats are demanding changes following the fatal shootings of 2 Americans at the hands of federal agents. Donna Warder, Washington.
A circuit court in Virginia says not so fast on that congressional redistricting scheme. The court has declared the Democrats' new congressional map unconstitutional, blocking it from taking effect. An appeal to the Virginia Supreme Court is anticipated. Deadly leak at a chemical plant in Kanawha County, West Virginia. 2 people died, 30 others to the hospital. Governor Patrick Morrisey says it happened yesterday at the Catalyst Refiners plant in Institute, West Virginia. It's about 10 miles west of Charleston.
I want to emphasize to the citizens of this area and in Kanawha County that based upon all the information that we have available right now. We don't believe there have been compromises to the air quality or to the water supply, that's been unaffected by this. That's positive.
7 first responders among the injured. The U.S. military has seized another tanker associated with the smuggling of Iranian oil. The tanker Majestic X was seized in the Indian Ocean. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures are down 275 points, while the NASDAQ futures are 70 points in the red. More on these stories, townhall.com.
If you don't care about saving 50% off your wireless bill for the same 5G coverage the big guys are charging a fortune for, maybe you care about keeping jobs in America. Pure Talk does. They've pledged to run their entire operation from this country, including all their customer service. Or maybe you care about our nation's veterans. Pure Talk does. They've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to America's Warrior Partnership, a fantastic organization working hard to prevent veteran suicide. Or maybe you care about closing America's skills gap. Pure Talk does. They're a proud supporter of MicroWorks. They're helping my foundation train the next generation of skilled workers. Don't get me wrong. Saving money's great, and you'll save plenty with Pure Talk. But if you want to be in business with people who share your values, dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
When your commercial or industrial facility needs repairs, who do you trust? Commercial Facilities Maintenance gets the job done right, every time. From plumbing and electrical to asphalt, concrete, and fencing, we handle it all. Occupied job sites? No problem. Multi-phase projects? We've got you covered. We offer seamless communication, quality handiwork, and a cost-free estimate within 1 to 2 business days. Building trust with quality work. Visit CommercialFacilitiesMaintenance.com. That's CommercialFacilitiesMaintenance.com.
Oh, Hank, what a wonderful spider web you have built for us. I love this fabulous space we have right here in the corner of the kitchen.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think I'll build us a vacation web in the coat closet. Oh, no. It's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Mike Ferguson.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Susie Moore.
They look very aggressive. I think they want to beat me up.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, kind of one of those, I guess, like mental exercise questions I've got here, right?
Uh-oh.
So if you want to stop people from doing bad things, just outlaw the bad things. It's that simple, right?
No.
Not that simple?
I mean, it worked during Prohibition.
I'm glad you brought that up because there are some lessons from history that I don't think are being learned here. And we see that what I found, the story I found is actually across the pond, but it's the same concept that we're seeing from around here in various things. And it goes back to not learning from history, and it also goes back to what happens when you let government get so big that you demand it take care of you and then wonder why it wants to control you. Okay, so across the pond here in Great Britain, they are implementing lifelong bans for tobacco products and these sort of smoking. So here's how it works: is we're talking, anywhere in the UK, this plan has already cleared Parliament, according to the BBC. And I did not realize that the king has to approve this. But apparently the king actually does something other than be in the tabloids. Then the various ministers there will be given new powers to regulate tobacco and vaping and any kind of nicotine product, according to the BBC article. And so this is going to apply in England, it's going to apply in Wales, it's going to apply in Scotland and Northern Ireland, so the whole UK. And so anybody born after January 1st, 2009 will never legally be able to buy cigarettes or any nicotine or tobacco products. So they're phasing in a complete ban.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, similar legislation was passed in the, you pronounce it Maldives or Maldives? Maldives, I think it's
I think it's Maldives.
Yeah. Banned tobacco for anybody born in 2007 or later. New Zealand enacted the generational ban in 2021, although that was eventually overturned in their process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are other things about the laws here, bans vaping in cars if kids are in there and in playgrounds outside school, stuff that, okay, I mean, whatever, time, place, use kind of restrictions. But in this particular case, basically they're saying, okay, it's legal for adults to make this decision. You're grandfathered in. We're not going to take away the right for you to have that decision. We're just not going to let other people do it. And then eventually, nobody's allowed nicotine or tobacco or anything like that because obviously it's bad for you. So their Department of Health said smoking cost the country $29 billion a year, and that over 500,000 households are living in poverty because, in part, of the money they spend on tobacco. So here's where I'm going with this here. They have a socialized healthcare system.
Yes, they do.
So they pay a lot of money in taxes to support that,
Mm-hmm.
which is also one of the reasons 500,000 households live in poverty.
Yeah.
So there is a vested interest, and this was one of the complaints that we pushed back on Obamacare so much 10, 12 years ago, whatever that was, is that when the government is basically socializing the resources
Mm-hmm.
to provide something like this, that means that every single one of us has a financial investment in how you run your life.
Right.
And the government is the fulcrum point of this. So that means the government says, hey, you're costing everybody money. Government's going to make decisions for you in your life. So in the UK, it means an otherwise legal product, we're not going to allow you to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you're costing all of us money because we pay for your doctor and we pay for your services. Now, if you want to go to an extreme level, look what's happening in Canada right now.
Yeah.
The thing that we were told on the right would never happen, stop being so hyperbolic, stop lying, there's never going to be a death panel. There are death panels.
Yeah.
Or decision makers. You're really sick. You're going to cost a lot of money. How about we just let you go peacefully? We can make it real painless.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually happening in Canada right now.
Right.
And so when I saw this, people wanted to debate, I have a right to buy it or not buy it, and it's not fair for some. And that's all true. But I kept looking back going, the bigger picture here is that when you give the government, you demand the government provide something for everybody in this socialized central system, you don't realize you're also insisting that government take the control and the ownership to steward it.
Right. Right. You're ceding all that authority to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, kind of circling back to how we started things, like, is it too far gone? Is there anything that they can do, particularly in the UK to wrest some of that control back? I don't know. Doesn't really seem like it. I think it's very hard to make the argument, as much as we bristle, particularly here in the U.S., where we still have this kind of, fondness for liberty and,
Mm-hmm.
and freedom.
At least in concept.
And, yeah. But what is the argument in Great Britain that the government isn't able to do this?
That they're not able to do the pushback against it?
I mean, is there one?
Well, the pushback is, I'm an adult. I have the right to smoke or vape if I want to.
Yeah, but do you?
They don't.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right.
Like, I don't think they have the ability to fight this.
Because, once Parliament says so and the king says so and the ministers say so, they have a lot. I mean, like complete control. And, I've spent a little time in the UK, not a lot, but a little bit, enough to strike up a bunch of conversations. They really do have a different mindset. I mean, they get mad at their government too, like everybody else does. I mean, we get that. But they accept as a way of life government making these decisions in ways that a lot of Americans don't.
Right.
And, so they'll debate policy and, all that kind of stuff. But they have a different view of government because they have a socialized system. They assume government in a parental role, and then they get mad at what should mom and dad do. Whereas we say government shouldn't be mom or dad.
Well, given all of that, and given that this is a sort of a phase-out situation as opposed to a straight-out prohibition, so that people that are being prevented from participating in this aren't people who've already gotten used to using it and gotten theoretically addicted to, whether it's psychological or physiologically. I'm not sure that it's not going to work. Do you know what I'm saying?
It may be, except what does history tell us back to what Jerome just said?
Yeah, but that was taking things away from people who already had that. If you're taking this away from people who never have, in other words, people who were born in 2009 and beyond, if they've never really gotten to the point where they are users of this product, you're taking away something from them that they never really knew to begin with. So I don't know if it's going to have the same backlash effect that you had, for instance, here in the U.S. with prohibition.
Well, I mean, this might be a more extreme case, but fentanyl started off as a prescription opioid to help people that were going through different surgeries, and it's a major killer of minors.
Right.
People that have not had medical treatments, but yet it's still rampant in our streets. So I don't think that the idea that just because somebody has not had the chance to become addicted to something does not mean that banning it is going to prevent people from underground market type things happening that would get them hooked. And I mean, I've gone through nicotine withdrawal a couple times.
Sure.
You want to see some bad times, go on an airplane that's a very long flight and see how they act when they're getting antsy. So
no, and that's a fair point as far as particularly if it's still available, if the supply is still there, if it's still plentiful, are you going to really be able to keep younger people from accessing it? No, that's a fair question. But my sense is there's a distinction between taking away a product from people who are already using it legally and able to versus making it no longer available for people who never were legally able to use it to begin with. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's not that connection. There's not that, affinity for it necessarily. I think that this is probably going to be more effective than straight out prohibition. If the UK,
but it is prohibition though.
Okay. It is, but it's phased in prohibition. My point is they're not taking tobacco away from people who are already legal users of it.
Correct. Yeah, and some of the stores are like, hey, you're killing us here.
Right.
So that's part of the pushback is like, we built businesses partially on this, and the government's like, we don't care.
They don't care.
I just don't think that their government's strong enough to enforce this the way that they think that they're going to
enforce it. They can come arrest you for saying the wrong thing online.
I was going to say, we're broadcasting worldwide online. Did I just commit a crime?
Yes. Pretty much every day we do.
Sorry, King Chuck. Sorry, King Chuck.
But no, so guns have been completely banned unless you are like one of like the 10 people that can possibly get a license for it, and yet there are still shootings in the UK.
I'm not saying it's going to be an absolute. I'm saying I think they're probably going to meet with more success than we met with prohibition here.
But I think there will be a black market. I mean, there's always going to be
there's a way.
Yeah, when there's always going to be an underground, there's always going to be a black market, especially as the UK basically says, hey, from everywhere else in the world, come on in. And they're making a lot of the mistakes on the illegal immigration and legal immigration that other parts of the world are experiencing. So, but none of the men, I don't know of any other European countries that are doing this. I mean, try banning smoking in France. Good luck with that.
Well, not going to happen.
The thing that concerns me a little bit more than that is the synthetic versions of things. So often when you ban a natural version of something, people, science kids in colleges find ways to make it synthesized, technically not illegal. And that's what we saw with a lot of the psychedelics that were coming into the United States are driving people crazy.
Sure.
I don't know what synthetic tobacco or nicotine would be like, but I can't imagine it's going to be better than.
No. I just, I part of me is kind of like I feel like UK is so far gone on so much of this stuff that I mean, good luck to them. But
but the impetus on this isn't that they care about the people being healthy.
No, it costs them.
Yeah, it's that we have a socialized system and you're costing us money, therefore we will make these decisions for you. And I do think you're right. I think it probably will generationally reduce the number of tobacco users, I think without a doubt. But I also think, Jerome, that you're right in that there will be a black market. And what comes from black market is never as good as what's on top of the table here.
Now, I would say, though, I would like to see all of the chemicals and all the crazy stuff they put in cigarettes removed from our cigarettes and just have it be the natural leaf tobacco.
That's a different story. But speaking of socialized systems, are we all about to become part owners of the airline with the worst reputation in the industry? We'll give you the heads up on that at 7:20.
Indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that? Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Mike Ferguson in the morning
I like it, but they're going a little overboard with the dancing.
on News Talk STL.
You know, for most people, you look at your yard, you look at your house, and you're like, I really like where I'm at, or I would like it more if. And a lot of times that if is if we had that new deck. A lot of times that if is, boy, if we just had that fence to define our area, maybe keep the dog in a little bit better, keep the neighbors from their stuff coming over into the yard or whatever the case is. But that's where my friends at STL FenceWorks come in. So STLFenceWorks.com, Mike Ferguson, obviously, here for STL FenceWorks. Not only are they a St. Louis-based company who is invested in St. Louis and has been for over 50 years, you're talking about a family-owned business that cares about their reputation, and they do things right. Listen, you can go find your cousin's friend who wants to pick up a few bucks and says, "Oh, I've done decks before," or you can go to professionals who are going to use quality materials that are guaranteed with workmanship that is guaranteed. And here's the thing: you can even go to STLFenceWorks.com and click on the estimate button and get a preview of what your yard's going to look like. Get that estimate ballpark, and so you don't even have to go make a call and go through the sales thing up front. Now, listen, they are going to do right by you. That's how they've been in business and succeeded for so long here. STLFenceWorks.com, American-made materials advantage here. So they exclusively use American-made materials, and I'm not talking about there's a patriotic appeal to that. We're talking about right now that means better pricing because it's avoiding a lot of these tariffs that have been put into place. And it also means a faster installation, no supply chain details. And, of course, it supports American manufacturing. You want to do business with a company like that? Then check out STLFenceWorks.com and at least see what they have to offer for you. STLFenceWorks.com. Say, hey, Mike mentioned you on the radio. Tell me more. STLFenceWorks.com.
Colombo and Company.
3 weeks to go in the 2026 Missouri legislative session, and it finally looks like we're making progress. We'll get an update Thursday with Senator Nick Schroer, plus Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire, and Dr. Randy Tobler.
Live and local, weekdays at 2
on News Talk STL.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or STLWindowsandDoors.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at INHSTL.com. That's INHSTL.com.
When the storm hits and a tree comes down, you need someone you can trust right now. OLI Outdoor Services in Godfrey is on call 24/7 for emergency tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, and land clearing. Serving Illinois and Missouri with licensed, insured professionals and over 200 years of combined experience. Tree removal starting at just $2.99. Free estimates, plus financing. Visit OLIOutdoorServices.com or call 1-888-5-SAWING.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
a lot of stuff that's in the news is kind of we've got a theme today. Socialism's bad.
Yes.
I'm like, it just kind of dawned on me. Like, I'm just getting the stuff that's in the news and what's, I think, interesting out there. Socialism's bad, everybody.
I'll take naked dancers at Aldi's over socialism.
But here's the thing. What if the socialism is by our team?
No.
Is it better if it's got an R behind it?
No.
Okay. Oh, of course it's better.
Yeah. So here's what's going on. Congratulations, everybody. We, as you may have forgotten, we're all part owners of Intel. Because the government decided to buy a bunch of Intel.
Yeah.
Trump accounts that a lot of Republicans are so excited about is taking money. Now, there was some philanthropic in there, but the bottom line is that the government is saying, here's $1,000 from the taxpayers that goes to your baby so you can start having skin in the game in the stock market. So the government is funding purchases of stock.
Yeah.
And now it looks like we're really close to a deal for the Trump administration for the federal government, because whoever's president next is going to be then the next person in charge, to buy upwards of 90% of Spirit Airlines, which is failing, close to liquidation. They've filed bankruptcy twice. Now part of the problem is they wanted to acquire JetBlue, and the Biden administration blocked it. That's a whole other ball of wax. But Spirit Airlines, which I think is fair to say has the worst reputation of any airline in the country. And there's a number of articles on this. I pulled the CNBC one for us. But it looks like the government's about to buy the controlling stake in Spirit Airlines to save the business, and then the federal government basically becomes the equity owner of this, which means we're about to become owners of Spirit Airlines.
What's the justification for that? I mean, like, why does that airline need to be rescued?
I don't think it does, personally.
What's
I think
the argument?
The argument is you don't want, in my commentary in an election year, you don't want a reduction in the transportation options, and you've got tens of thousands of people who work for the airline who would suddenly be out of work, and you don't want that hit to the economy, is what some of the arguments I'm seeing is, but that doesn't justify socialism.
No, and I feel like there are, in theory, legal guardrails up that limit the ability of the government to do something like this. I haven't been able to investigate or research this issue.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
What if it's the case that Spirit Airlines has such a bad reputation because it has not been owned by the government, and President Trump had Trump shuttles for a period of time, so he actually has experience running an airline, so to speak. So maybe it would be the case that Donald Trump can save Spirit Airlines.
I don't think if Donald Trump wants to save Spirit Airlines, then at the end of his term, and he's a private citizen, he can invest in it and save Spirit Airlines. It's not his job to take my money to save any particular business. It's not the government's role to do this. This literally is socialism.
I agree with that. I'm trying to, again, I haven't had a chance to research this, but I would like to know what legal justification the government is relying on to say, yeah, this is appropriate and legal for us to do.
Yeah, because we're talking about a $500 million cash flow into Spirit Airlines from the Treasury is what we're talking about. And the story describes it as an advanced talks for financing package. So the deal would include $500 million in financing from the government, which then would provide a path to give the government an equity stake in the carrier, and the people who, basically it's some people who say, okay, we're part of the deal, the anonymous, we're not authorized to speak, but then there's others who are quoting the president who's confirming that this is happening. He has been in the Wall Street Journal confirmed to say that this is happening here. So the business reasons you see there, White House spokesman Kush Desai said in a statement to CNBC, Spirit Airlines would be on a much firmer financial footing had the Biden administration not recklessly blocked the airline's merger with JetBlue. The Trump administration continues to monitor the situation and overall health of the U.S. aviation industry that millions of Americans rely on every day for essential travel and their livelihoods, because they're basically close to the liquidation point. President Trump hinted at the aid on Tuesday, telling CNBC's Squawk Box, Spirit's in trouble, and I'd love somebody to buy Spirit. It's $14,000 jobs. Maybe the federal government should help that one out.
No.
I agree with you.
Okay, real quick, Susie.
Yeah.
Philosophically speaking, though, could it not be the case that there can be some good done for the market by having at least one of something controlled by the government as a baseline for everybody else to have to get. Why not?
No. Because you're not in the market then.
No, just like New York City shouldn't be in the business of running grocery stores, the federal government shouldn't be in the business of running businesses.
Or apartments or anything like
Right.
that.
Well-
The answer is no, because what happens right now, if the federal government buys Spirit Airlines, then does it become your patriotic duty to fly Spirit even though they suck? Because if you fly Delta or Southwest, you are now literally working against your own financial interest.
Well, it's not going to suck this time because Trump's going to fix it.
Yeah.
Jerome, come on now. No, I mean, I think if you bark about Obama and Solyndra, if you bark about anything, any of the crony capitalism you see that is barked about when Democrats are in power, you have to hold the same standard regardless of who's in power. I mean, I don't fault President Trump for saying, hey, here's something that we, there's a reason that you want to maybe prop this airline up. There's a reason you might want to save it. But the you needs to be private interests, private industry, not you, the taxpayer. The taxpayers shouldn't be propping up independent businesses. They shouldn't be our private businesses. They shouldn't be owning them. That's not the way a capitalist society works, and that's not the way we want to be working because we don't want it to be, regardless of who's in control.
Yeah, because also flips the incentives on their head.
Yeah.
The incentive now for regulators is going to be, we've got a 90% or 80% or whatever it ends up being stake in this airline. We can't allow these other airlines to beat us so bad that we're not getting a return on the investment that the taxpayers have made. The incentives become toxic at that point, and that's one of the dangers, one of the many dangers of socialism if you have the official U.S. government airline competing with those that are in a somewhat free market. I mean, the airline industry is very heavily regulated as it is.
It is.
But you've also now got a completely different incentive structure where we are now basically in a position to say, well, if we allow a free market, $500 million of taxpayer money is just going to go out the window. We can't do that. And so you are on a very fast path. You're not on just a path. You're on a drag race to away from the free market, and which is what keeps prices the lowest and the best value.
So just to make sure I'm conceptualizing it properly then. So the problem then becomes you have a government that can potentially print infinite money if need be, or find new ways of funding something that may have a sinking ship, so to speak. They can just keep throwing money regardless of how unpopular it is. So it just becomes a taxing. Okay.
Your dollars. So, and here's the thing. Okay, if the government wants to help,
right,
you get out of the way. You help. Remove the obstacles that allow companies to regroup, reorganize, and find a way to become profitable. You get out of the way.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't buy the company.
And if your business sucks so bad, your business model and your management sucks so bad that you can't compete, then you go out of business, and then that creates opportunity for somebody else to come in and do it. That's the market. Keep in mind, how many decades ago was it that the guy literally had a legal brothel in Nevada, got behind all of his taxes? The government took over as part of the the IRS case, literally took over his business. It went out of business. The government couldn't sell sex where it's legal. You don't trust them to run a complex business when they could not sell it legally in the desert in Nevada.
I think it's fine to bring business concepts and ideals to the idea of governance, but government shouldn't be in the business of running business.
But it's got an R behind its name.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's the question that I've got is, listen, and the Solyndra case was so perfect, Susie, because we jumped all over it for the exact same reasons I'm criticizing this. Are we as conservatives and free marketeers, are we going to hold this government to the same standard we want to hold everybody else to?
Very valid point. Now, there is income tax reform debate going on right now in Missouri, and there's also a lot of proposals for a taxpayer bill of rights in the Show Me State. Our own Tim Jones explains what that means to you and your wallet coming up here at 7:35.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
People talk about federal money as if it falls from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets.
On NewsTalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Scotch.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
I truly believe if you're accused of something, may be charged with a crime, despite all the facts you're innocent until proven guilty. Yet there are times when my faith is truly tested. Perfect latest example, Florida Congresswoman Sheila McCormick. Make that former Congresswoman, she's resigned, saying she's facing a witch hunt, but is resigning in the best interest of those who put her in office. A grand jury indictment involving $5 million against her. Allegedly, she and her family health care service during COVID got $5 million, a FEMA overpayment. They allegedly got a tax accountant to help hide the money, allegedly gave some to family and friends, who allegedly funneled it back to her. And she allegedly used a lot of it to buy jewelry and whatever else she wanted. The thing about this kind of investigation, there's a paper trail of where the money went and how it was used. Of course, all of this could be trumped up, no pun intended, trumped up against her. But those numbers, that documentation, well, at this point, she is still innocent. But if convicted, faces 50 years in prison. Did the witch hunt catch a witch? Allegedly catch a witch?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIGlobal.com.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to hear you.
Hey, Dad, isn't it good to see ya?
Yep, but with smoke alarms, we need to hear them. If one alarm is downstairs, you might not hear it upstairs.
At school, everyone hears the fire alarm.
That's why we install hardwired smoke alarms that all go off together, just like school.
Smoke alarms done the right way.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Like Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
All right, Missouri lawmakers are working on things other than just the income tax reform. That's dominated, obviously, the discussions and the headlines, and now it's up to the voters.
It is.
To decide at this point. But there are other things that are happening, and you know who's having a pretty successful session so far would be the Missouri Freedom Caucus.
Yeah.
They've really amped up from where they were just a year or two ago to this year having a much bigger influence. And, of course, among their team of leadership and troublemakers, chief troublemakers, is our own Tim Jones. You hear him every afternoon here, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock here. So, Tim, let's start. I kind of referenced this like on our show sheet here, the other Missouri legislative debates, because we've been so caught up in the income tax reform that we forget there's a lot of other stuff going on. Like, for instance, speaking of taxpayers, and this has been brought up a time or two, but it's just kind of been overshadowed, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. What is it that we've got? Because I think Jim Murphy is really promoting this one, not necessarily, he's not necessarily with the Freedom Caucus, but it's aligned. So what is it that lawmakers are considering putting into place for a Taxpayer Bill of Rights?
Well, good morning, Mike, Susie, Jerome. Thanks for having me back today. Yeah, I mean, the Freedom Caucus has become the force that the legislature has to go through and make sure that it is supportive of efforts in order to get legislation passed. And the people in the Freedom Caucus are the ones leading the most conservative legislation. When you look at folks like Ben Keithley in the House and Nick Schroer in the Senate, our chair and our vice chair, and the other members, they're the ones that are either championing or helping move these biggest, most historical bills. Mike, some of these we haven't seen in over a decade. There is a Republican renaissance going on, and I don't think it's an accident that it coincides with the evolution of an organized Freedom Caucus in our state. There's 15 Freedom Caucuses now across the country, and we are finally seeing the return of things like the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. We call it TABOR. That's the acronym for short, Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It's something that I haven't seen actively move this far in the legislature since I was there. When I was a younger legislator, when I had first entered the building, there was a guy named Alan Isett, who you all may remember. He was the budget chairman eventually. He was from our region here, from Wildwood, Missouri. One of the most brilliant budget chairmen we ever had. Great guy, conservative guy. And he used to file the Taxpayer Bill of Rights every year. And I'll tell you, we in the House, we passed it. Same problem then, unfortunately, same problem now. We're having sticking points in the Senate on this. I don't know what it is with the big spenders in the Senate who don't want to who want to protect government spending more than having the people keep the money in their pockets. TABOR is a great concept, and it where it's most seen. It's actually it's been instilled in the Colorado Constitution many decades ago. And as goofy and as nutty and as left as Colorado has turned because of the guardrails of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights that are still in the Colorado Constitution from when Republicans and conservatives put it in there a long time ago, that has protected Colorado from completely going off the deep end. Now, unfortunately, Mike, the left goes after TABOR every single election cycle, and they have been chipping away at it. And I'm really afraid that at some point it is going to crumble and fall, because you can only attack something so much and give it 1,000 cuts before it eventually goes away. But the Taxpayer Bill of Rights basically is the the ultimate throttle on government spending. And it says, and I'm really simplifying this, but for 7:30 in the morning, but it says that if you have excess revenues, you have to return those revenues in some way to the people, right? So you either pay down debt if your government has that, or you can lower the tax rate, or in the state of Colorado, you know what this is why TABOR has survived there so long. The Coloradans literally get a check in the mail when there's excess government revenues. You can imagine nobody wants that to go away, right? It is an automatic refund. Now, it's a shame it has to be a refund in the first place versus having the taxation occur, the legalized theft that we always talk about. But at least they're giving it back because they have to. And so the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is an idea. It is not a new idea. It's a great old idea that should be instilled in every state. And you know why you don't see it in every state? Because even in red states, a lot of Republican governors, they don't want that throttle on their discretionary spending. They want to be able to decide what to do with the people's money, Republicans or Democrats. So I would say, and for those who criticize the Republican legislature in Missouri or anywhere else where they say, you guys have been in power for 20 years and, what have you done? And I would say, first of all, we've done a lot. But second of all, if you have any complaints about Missouri, it's because the Republican supermajority hasn't been Republican enough. And if we would pass things like the Taxpayer Bill of Rights in conjunction with this historic revolution of eliminating the insidious, invasive, horrible income tax, then Republicans can say we've truly done great Republican things.
Good morning, Tim. Speaking of great Republican things, this is one that I feel like kind of keeps flying under the radar, but I think it's, I don't know if I would say equally important, but it is very important. The REINS Act. Talk a little bit about what that is designed to do and why we need it here in Missouri.
Yeah, another great question, Susie. So these two concepts and several others have something in common. When you're talking about a taxpayer bill of rights, right? Making sure that there's a throttle on government spending. And if there is excess spending, it goes back to the taxpayers. When you're talking about things like the REINS Act, that is a regulatory throttle. That gives additional legislative oversight over the regulatory agencies. I think it should automatically just be there in the first place, right? Because the agencies are not elected. The bureaucrats are appointed by the representatives who are elected or by the governor who is elected, right? And so we've gotten in this upside down world, definitely on the federal level, but even on the state level, where career bureaucrats somehow get the notion that because they've been there longer than the elected officials, that they're the ones that should be making all the decisions. They're the ones that should be deciding the spending amounts. They're the ones that should be deciding all the rule making when a legislature passes a statute. Oh, don't worry, we'll take it from here. We think we know what you mean. REINS resets the apple cart and says that when you have certain levels of government spending, that allows additional oversight from the actual elected legislators. So the two things these things have in common are what? It puts the elected representatives and senators into a higher position than the bureaucracy, right? And that's why the bureaucracy and the administration always pushes back on these things. They don't want to concede that power, but they shouldn't have had it ever in the first place.
We're visiting with Tim Jones here every afternoon, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And Tim, here in a couple minutes, I want to get a preview of what's coming up on the Freedom Caucus radio show, which, of course, is based out of here in News Talk STL. A couple other things. We don't have time to get to everything that I was texting about, but we've got Amendment 3 coming up, the good Amendment 3 that we want to get passed. And when I saw the notes that you sent me about the Born Alive Protection Act, of course, we're going to talk to Riley Gaines here in about 20 minutes or so on the program. This is crucial to so much of what we do in the state and so much of what we do in the conservative movement. Where is the Born Alive Protection Act right now in the process? This should be a no-brainer for anybody who's got an R behind their name. It should be a no-brainer for anybody who's got a D behind their name. But where is that in the process right now? And it also shows why Amendment 3 is so important.
Yeah, Mike, all of these pieces of legislation, all of these legislative vehicles, they're all sitting in the Senate, our state Senate, waiting to be passed. So if people are running around this morning and trying to listen to what I'm saying and trying to take pieces from it, one thing, call your state senators, email your state senators, tweet at your state senators, and tell them to pass these things. We're very critical of the legislature, as they should be year in and year out. But when they do accomplish things, we should point that out and give them credit where it is absolutely due. The Missouri House had a historic year this year. Again, I say one of the best years in maybe a decade. They moved the historic revolution of eliminating our income tax and updating our 1930s tax code all the way across the finish line. That started in the House. It finished in the House. They have the Taxpayer Bill of Rights that they passed out weeks ago, sitting in the Senate. They have the REINS Act passed out of the House, sitting in the Senate. The Born Alive Act was the first bill passed out of the House in January or February. Very proud of my own state representative, my sister from another mother, Holly Jones. She was a champion for that bill, member of the Freedom Caucus. That was passed, Mike, it was like the first 6 weeks. It was the first bill the House passed. The Senate has yet to pick that up. This is a common sense measure. And for all the, abortion on demand people out there, get out of your talking point zone for a moment and realize this is separate and apart from the abortion debate. This is for babies who are born alive. Okay. That's exactly the name of the bill is what it is. It's not the opposite, like what most leftist legislation is, right? This is something that Congresswoman Ann Wagner has championed on the federal level, and the states need to implement it as well. If a child is born alive after a botched abortion, what a horrific thing, then this statute, if this bill, if passed and becomes law, says that measures must be taken to ensure the continued life of the child. Why wouldn't we do that? Have we become such a barbaric society that we can't even acknowledge that? But Mike, unfortunately, the leftists, the Democrats, I believe, all voted against this in the Missouri House, and they won't even bring it up in the Senate. I don't understand. I don't understand that at all. All these discussions we're having about taxation, regulation, litigation, blah, 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 they're all important, all incredibly important. But we don't get to have them unless we don't have future taxpayers, future people, future lives, supporting the state of Missouri. If the state ends up eliminating itself, the state no longer exists. So life is the number one priority. Yes, Amendment 3, the new good Amendment 3, will be on the ballot later this year. That is a yes vote. But wouldn't it be great to it would have been great to have a bipartisan vote on something called the Born Alive Act, but apparently the leftists these days are so far gone. They're beyond salvation. But that Born Alive Act is sitting in the state Senate, ready to go. The TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, the REINS Act. There's another proposal to do what Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich did back in the 90s, to have work requirements for Medicaid, for welfare. That's sitting in the Senate, already passed by the House. So we've got 3 weeks to go. I don't know what they're going to do, because they actually finished the budget last night, and praise God Almighty, Mike, they actually passed a smaller budget. They kind of had to this year. There wasn't much cash to go around, but at least they did that. And the Freedom Caucus helped get that done. So the next 3 weeks are going to be occupied with what? I hope just not wasting the people's time and money. How about pass some of these things that we just discussed this morning? They're all great legislation. They're all, and not only are they all Republican, they're all good for Missourians, period, the end, no matter what your political philosophy is.
All right, Tim Jones, of course, here every afternoon, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. What's coming up on the Freedom Caucus radio show? And we're just a little over time, so what do we got coming up this weekend?
Yeah, we're going to be speaking with Justin Heap, who is a former Arizona Freedom Caucus member, and he's now the recorder. He's the Maricopa County recorder. That's a pretty active county we've talked about over the last few years, the ground zero for election integrity. Mike, he had a huge victory in court this week. We're going to talk about what that entailed. And then we're going to speak with one of your good friends, Representative Brad Holbrook, over in the Illinois Freedom Caucus. I know you've been covering the insanity over there with DEI and this deal with the Chicago Bears. So we're going to break all that down as well. It's a real pleasure and honor to be able to speak with the 15 different Freedom Caucuses all across the country. So if you want to know what's going on, and not only in the Missouri Freedom Caucus, but in the other 14 Freedom Caucuses spread out all across the nation, State Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, 7 p.m. here at NewsTalk STL every Sunday.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, gang.
Hey, this is your reminder. This is Friday Eve. So tomorrow is Flashback Friday, and Jerome wants you to send him your requests for our bump music. This week's themes is like great songs from the 80s that even someone who's kind of on the 80s will have to acknowledge. This is good stuff. So be sure to get those requests in to Jerome at
We're
NewsTalkSTL.
converting people who don't like or respect 80s music and correcting them
Win them
into
over.
appreciating what a great era of music that
Winning
was.
hearts and minds. You have heard me talk about Window World before. They are one of only 2 replacement windows with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval, and they're ranked number 1 in the country for number of windows sold by Qualified Remodeler magazine. They've been doing this for over 20 years. They've been helping improve the look and energy efficiency of more than 80,000 homes right here in St. Louis, and the St. Louis location has been owned, operated, and managed by born and raised St. Louisans for more than 23 years. If you've been thinking about new windows, you can call today for a free home estimate at 1-800-GET-WINDOWS. What I like about Window World is the product itself. Their windows are durable, they're secure, they're energy efficient, and they are built with double strength glass that you don't typically see in replacement windows. And you're covered with a lifetime warranty that includes parts, glass, breakage, and labor. That's a big deal. They don't just do windows either. Window World can also help with siding and doors, basically everything on your exterior except a roof or garage door. And here's something a lot of companies don't offer. Their customer service team is available 7 days a week, yes, including weekends. And it shows. Over half of their appointments come from repeat customers or referrals, which tells you a lot about their commitment to customer service. They're also very big in the community. They've raised over $4 million over the years for charities like Action for Autism and St. Jude, and they're the preferred window of your St. Louis Blues. Right now, they're offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. So if you've been putting it off, now is a great time to act. Call Window World at 1-800-GET-WINDOWS.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010 extension 3 today or visit colecombs-law.com.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination, both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale, a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family, where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement, where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Magic Expeditions will make planning your Disney cruise easy. Reach out at magicexpeditions.com.
Let's get back to all this madcap mayhem with Mike Ferguson in the morning. But don't forget, stick around for Jones and Arps every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m.
All right, a lot of data center talk around the area. St. Louis City is looks like going to put one in the old Armory, which honestly makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you're going to do with the Armory.
Yeah.
And there's one in North County as well. And it could be involving a $1 billion incentive deal from the local government.
That sounds like a pretty big deal.
With a B, yes. So among other things, the data centers coming to North County, or could be coming to North County. Is it a good plan? I got a few basic details for you here. Fight over gerrymandering in Virginia, not over yet.
Nope.
We'll see where it goes. Cardinals heading back home after their road trip, which I would say was a pretty successful road trip overall.
That's fair.
Yeah, all right, 7:53 right now. Let's do another news dump.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
All right, a data center is part of a proposed development in Ferguson, and city officials are considering an incentive package worth over $1 billion. That's just the incentives from the government here. KMOV's Morgan Harris explains in this report that she filed last night.
Developing now, leaders in Ferguson are preparing to debate a set of tax incentives that could help bring major changes to the former Emerson campus. Tomorrow, a city council meeting is taking place for a second reading on a bill that could grant over $1 billion in tax breaks to a developer who is looking to turn the space into a tech hub and a data center. This comes after the plan passed a first reading earlier this week. Now, some residents have shared concerns about those possible tax breaks.
Okay, so when she filed that, she said the meeting tomorrow, she filed that last night. So we're talking about the meeting tonight, which starts at 7 o'clock. And we're talking about $1 billion in tax incentives, which I am not obviously wild about the government cronyism, but it is interesting here that you've got the old Emerson campus, which is empty. And so they're talking about a tech hub. And if there's any part of the metro that needs private investment, it would be North County.
Yeah.
And now this is not entirely private investment if you've got an incentive tax structure. But if I'm on the city council of Ferguson or Board of Aldermen, and you got people yelling about a data center, you're looking at an entire tech campus.
Yeah.
You may see them stand up and go, no, hold on. You got a city that's been decimated over the last 10, 11 years.
Right.
And, so many activists just go saying, government, spend money here. Government, build something. Government, fund this program. Government, do this. And you've got a developer saying, we'll do it, but give me a little bit. So there's good and bad and the ugly in all of this.
Definitely. Well, the other thing too is, a lot of the infrastructure is already there. You're not talking about starting from scratch. You're not
Right.
talking about building a brand new facility and all the things that involves. You're talking about actually working with what's already there. It's got to be put to some use, or else it's just sitting there. It's a
Right.
waste.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how much pushback this gets versus what we've seen, for instance, in Festus or Arnold, that sort of thing. But
Troy, Illinois.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this might be one of the best, just like with the Armory, it might be one of the better uses of that location.
Yeah. All right, quick programming note. Riley Gaines is going to be on the show this morning in about 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know she's the keynote speaker of this year's Missouri Right to Life Banquet. That's happening May 20th in St. Charles. Ticket information is at MissouriLife.org. Okay, a federal appeals court has blocked California's law that requires federal law enforcement agents to wear, among other things, some sort of specific identification.
The appellate court's order favors the Trump administration, which had filed a lawsuit in November challenging the 2025 law requiring federal immigration agents to wear a badge or some form of ID. The administration argued that California's law would threaten the safety of officers who are facing harassment, doxing, and violence. A 3-judge panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued an injunction pending appeal. Greg Clugston, Washington.
I know there's some coverage of this in Red State.
There is, by someone named Bob Hogue, I believe.
Yeah, there it is. So now when you talk about the doxing and stuff, that's exactly what the leftist politicians wanted.
Right.
Is they wanted the doxing of federal law enforcement.
there was
They wanted to open up for their crazy activist base to enact violence against these people and their families.
The bottom line here is that the state doesn't have the authority to tell the federal government what
Right.
what its officers can do.
Yeah. All right. A judge says the mayor, not the state, gets to appoint St. Louis's next sheriff, but she cannot do it alone. Okay. The case is a result of former Sheriff Alfred Loaded Dice Montgomery being removed from office last year. The Attorney General's office argued that the governor gets to make that selection, but the ruling in this case says the mayor's got the final say, but she does have to take nominations and get advice from the Board of Aldermen.
So there's that.
Cardinals lose the final game of the series with the Marlins on Tuesday. Final score 4-1. Ivan Herrera had a home run in that. Today is a travel day for the team, so no game, and the Cardinals start a series with the Mariners at home on Friday.
It's not pleasant to hear it, but Missouri is falling behind in its spending of state tax dollars, education, and health care. But there are ways to get Missouri moving forward again and produce a better life for all of us. That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together a 2026 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can move to a brighter future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from taxes to government transparency, from education to health care and budget reform. Let's allow students to attend the school of their choice. Let's adopt new proven methods to help the many school kids who can barely read. Let's limit state spending growth for Missouri's long-term financial stability. And let's invest in future needs with more nuclear energy. Why not common sense reforms to make things better for all Missourians? Check out our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hey guys, don't miss Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. where we talk about so many areas, including AI, law, and health. We have some fantastic guests on my show just about every Sunday. Don't forget, Sunday evenings at 8 p.m., Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Hey, it's Nick Schroer. To preserve this nation, to preserve the experiment in liberty that our founders envisioned, we must take a stand and fight.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer. Sunday nights at 6.
Only on News Talk STL.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. The American military has seized another tanker linked to the smuggling of Iranian oil. This tanker was seized in the Indian Ocean. President Trump has ordered the U.S. military to shoot and kill Iranian small boats choking the Strait of Hormuz. Mr. Trump also says that mine-clearing operations are underway. Virginia's redrawn congressional map is unconstitutional, a ruling of a circuit court judge blocking certification and implementation of the Democrat-friendly map that's been sparking much debate among
Andrea, Matt Wallace said he was resigned to the fact that in the current environment, it is a standard of by any means necessary to fight back.
I think that the redistricting issue across the country is unfortunate, that we've had to resort to temporary redistricting.
Those that opposed it, like Joanna Miller, focused solely on Virginia and not the rest of the country and talked about how it will disenfranchise them.
I think that the effort this fall is not in good faith, and so I voted against the redistricting because I want my vote to count in a fair way.
Another test is coming in just a week in Florida, where similar discussions are underway that could swing toward Republicans. I'm Gary Fields.
He is no longer Navy blue.
The Pentagon has abruptly announced that Navy Secretary John Phelan is leaving his job. Phelan is the first head of a military service to depart during President Donald Trump's second term. But it's just the latest in a series of shakeups of top leadership at the Pentagon, coming just weeks after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth fired the Army's top uniformed officer, General Randy George.
Correspondent Lisa Dwyer. Following months of delay, the European Union has now approved a $106 billion loan for Ukraine. On Wall Street, ahead of this morning's opening bell, Dow futures down 272 points, NASDAQ futures off 80. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
This whole thing's got me thinking about how privileged I've been. America's a wonderful country. If I were a black man, I'd be furious. We're getting frustrated.
Number 1 for live and local
conservative talk.
There are certain issues that we need improvement. They would rather have this country on its knees than be successful.
News, analysis, opinion.
We have common sense, and the Democrats have none.
101.9 and 94.1.
And I appreciate the discussion.
St. Louis is number 1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
What is that private pile? Sir, jelly donut, sir. A jelly donut?
Susie Moore.
Mama don't like tattletales.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed.
Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
One of the biggest pro-life events in Missouri, maybe the biggest pro-life event in Missouri, is coming to the St. Louis region again, and it's coming at a crucial time in our history. I mean, regionally here, you've got the dichotomy of Illinois, whose government can't rush into as many abortions as possible fast enough, and Missouri, where we're trying to overcome what happened in the last election with the terrible Amendment 3, trying to pass a new Amendment 3. But it's bigger than that. It goes beyond what the policy issue is. It goes into who are we as people.
Yeah.
And that's why it matters so much. We're now joined by Riley Gaines.
Yeah.
Obviously become one of the top voices in this debate across the country. And Riley, welcome to the show here. Let me start with a bigger picture real quick. And you've been thrown into the middle of this entire debate. It's been fascinating to watch, going from the issue over the gender ideology nonsense that cost you so much in your collegiate sports career to you being kind of pushed into the life debate. And they really are connected. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. But when we talk about working to win in the pro-life realm, we tend to think of this amendment or that bill or this law, but we don't often talk enough about the culture of life that needs to be the basis for all of this. What are you seeing, and what are you bringing into your appearance at the pro-life event next in May?
Yeah, well, first of all, really good to be on with you guys. Super excited to chat. You're entirely right about the connection between the two issues. It was something that I didn't really understand, unfortunately, until I had kind of been directly and negatively impacted by the gender ideology movement, seeing all the roots that this issue really had. Of course, even looking at Planned Parenthood, this is an organization, until the passage of the Big Beautiful Bill, that received $792 million of taxpayer funds annually. And with that money, what do? Of course, they perform abortions. I think upwards of 400,000 abortions every single year. They promote gender ideology. They support the Democratic Party politically. Really, really horrible stuff. So that's when I began to understand the link. But it was really once I had a daughter of my own that I really began to value life. And for context, I've always been pro-life from the understanding, first and foremost, being a Christian, of understanding we have a God who condemns the shedding of innocent blood and who breathes purpose and value into every life. But I will never forget going to that first ultrasound appointment at 8 weeks old. You know, she's 8 weeks, and you hear denied that for a while, but now we're seeing kind of like the trad wife trend really take hold, and it's appealing to young people, especially young women. So hopefully we're seeing that shift, and I think a large part of that, to thank, is people like President Trump, who's made it kind of cool to be pro-life again.
It's true. Good morning, Riley. This is Susie Moore. I'm a bit older. I'm Gen X, and I will tell you that I'm someone whose views on life didn't change until I was in my 30s, but also around the time that I had my daughter, who's close to you in age. To me, one of the biggest obstacles, I think, in this is that breaking through that barrier, that messaging barrier, because people who are already pro-life, you don't have to convince. They're already on board with you. It's the people who are still winnable, the people who, when you actually can break down some of those defense mechanisms, when they do start thinking about the issue in real terms, can see the value of life and fighting for that. What have you found has been the most effective way to reach those people who are reachable but maybe haven't come all the way over it yet?
Well, I think beyond even just the issue of abortion and making sure that life is born, I think one of the things that especially young women really care about is how can we continue to be pro-life, pro-woman, pro-family, pro-child beyond that child's birth and arrival into the world? How can we keep looking out for those mothers and showing up for them and being supportive, especially moms who don't have a supportive husband, which I can't even imagine. I have found myself in this place of gratitude for my husband and just that support system, what that looks like, how he's able to not even just necessarily provide and protect our baby and our family, but how he supports me in the mission and the fight that I have found myself fighting for. So how can we continue to be there for those women and really embody what it means to be pro-life? Because, of course, that extends far beyond just the baby's arrival into the world. And, again, I think President Trump, he's done a fantastic job of that. One of the benefits of his administration and certainly the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill is making sure we're keeping money back in the pockets of parents, whether that's through child tax credits, whether that's through no tax on tips or no tax on overtime. All of this, of course, again, when you're talking about young families, that benefits those parents especially. So that's what it means to be pro-life, and that's the message we need to be reinforcing, especially to young moms.
We're visiting with Riley Gaines, who's going to be at the Missouri Right to Life Make America Pro-Life Again banquet that's happening May 20th. It's going to be in St. Charles. You can get all the information and your tickets link at NewsTalkSTL.com. Let me expand this just a little bit, kind of come back to where we started, Riley. And that was obviously you were first kind of thrust into the national headlines over the whole so-called trans nonsense. Now we say so-called because it's not a real thing. It's a gender dysphoria. It's an ideology. It's become. But a lot of people are saying, okay, we'll pick a lane. Are you talking about abortion? Are you talking about the gender ideology? But they really are connected because it has to do with respecting life as it's made, life as it's created. So when you're talking on the 20th and you're here in town at this event, give us a little bit of a preview of what you're going to be bringing to the auditorium when it comes to linking these things that are just crucial, not just morally and ethically, but literally in cases of life and death.
It's such a good point, and it is so true where they're connected in the sense of there's a war on women, there's a war on children, there's a war on what is real and what is true and what is good in God's design. And I think that's how these two issues are connected. And so I plan on talking about maybe sharing a little bit about my experience and how I have found myself in the position that I'm in. But ultimately then what I've learned over the past few years, how these are lies that are built on deception and discouragement and destruction. And who else operates in that way? Of course, that would be Satan. That's his playbook, right? Is to deceive, is to discourage, is to destroy. And so I think that's what people can expect to hear. But also, I hope to leave people with some encouragement because while, yes, some of the headlines and things that we hear in the news cycle today, they can be really daunting and dark and heavy, but we should feel hopeful and we should feel optimistic about the future because we have seen so many successes and victories and wins that certainly under a different administration we would not have seen. So while there's still, of course, a lot of work to do, there are some victories to celebrate as well that should leave people feeling hopeful about the future and the next generation. Because as you said, and as we've alluded to, I think we are seeing that cultural tide shift. And it's something to kind of revel in, but all without taking our foot off the gas.
Yeah, Riley, you touched on this. You kind of got thrust into this at a very young age. And I will tell you that I mentioned I have a daughter. Her name is Riley. She's 24.
Good face.
Exactly. And, she went through something similar on a much smaller scale, but her time in college was tough because she did hold more conservative traditional views. And that got her ostracized in some respects. And I just wanted to know what advice you have, insight you have to impart to young women who do have these strong beliefs and want to stand up for them, but are maybe feeling intimidated, maybe feeling like they're going to be talked over or shoved aside if they do speak up. What words of encouragement would you have for them?
Here's what I'll say, and what I have found to be useful in my life is I'm not going to sit here and say those things won't happen, that you won't lose friends potentially, or you won't, maybe lose followers on social media. But what I will say is it is absolutely worth it. There is no more liberating feeling than just saying what you know to be true and good and righteous and just and moral. You feel like, honestly, a weight is off of your shoulders, and all of the stress and all of the pressure that I felt when I had to stay silent, or when I felt I needed to stay silent to keep all of those things that I mentioned I was scared of losing. When I finally found the courage and the conviction to take that initial leap of faith, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And so while you might face backlash, take it on the chin. Find a good support system. Like I mentioned, my husband is that for me. I have amazing friends in my life, people you can lean on, people who know you and your intent and the posture of your heart and where you're coming from. Because speaking for myself, at least, I'm not coming from a place of ill will or hatred or animosity towards one person or any group of people. Again, it's just from the position of, first and foremost, as a Christian, but knowing what is biological reality, even in this case. So it's worth it, and I promise you will feel liberated for it.
Okay, May 20th is the Make Missouri Pro-Life Again, Missouri Right to Life banquet. You can get your tickets still. I think they've got some left. NewsTalkSTL.com. Just look for Riley Gaines' picture. Last minute or so that we've got, Riley, again, thanks for being on the program here. I mean, there's going to be a lot to talk about here in Missouri. We've got the Amendment 3 issue that's coming up, but that's the vote that is the end result of needing to sort of relight that fire that respects life and respects, like you said, the biological realities as well. So when you're coming into town here in just a matter of weeks, it really comes down to, are we in this not just to win an election, but to win over generations and a culture and sort of reclaim that culture that a lot of people are afraid we lost?
That's right. That's exactly it. But the good news is, of course, it has not been lost. More work to do, but I'm hopeful for what the future entails, especially when we have an entire generation of younger people who are ready and willing to do what it takes to help make that culture shift happen.
All right. Riley, thanks so much. Really appreciate you being on the program here. We'll look forward to seeing you. Look forward to finally meeting you in person on May 20th.
And likewise. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Riley. And thank you all for listening. We know you're going to be tuning in again tomorrow, too, and you're going to want to hear some great flashback music.
Right.
So here is your reminder. You've got to get your requests into Jerome. He wants to hear from you. Pick out what you think are great 80s songs that are going to win even the biggest skeptics over to your way of thinking so that we can celebrate Flashback Friday together. Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.
I mean, he always wants to hear from you, but just this time, send him good music.
That, too.
Destination, making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
The strong protecting the weak and the good defeating evil.
On News Talk STL.
This is your cousin.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
State Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, Sunday nights at 7 on News Talk STL. Hear all the behind-the-scenes stories about what the State Freedom Caucus is doing across the country, directly from the legislators and the people that are doing it. State Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, this Sunday night at 7 with your host, Tim Jones. State Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, now Sunday nights at 7 on News Talk STL.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
Tony Colombo here for All Solutions Pest Control. The team Christine and I trust to protect our home. We've used multiple services at multiple homes over the years, and I can tell you from all that experience, All Solutions is second to none. If you have a pest problem of any kind, or more importantly, just want to prevent a problem, All Solutions is the team to call. Learn more and take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer right now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
place to talk. News Talk STL.
Hey guys, Billy Crow here from Jeffco Patriot Radio. Hope you had enough time to freshen up your coffee, because now we're back with Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I still think of Bongino whenever I hear that song. That was his like theme that he used, or a lot of his bump music on when he used to do a show. I mean, he still does the shows just online, but yeah, I hear that and I think of Dan. I just do.
I'll find a different Nickelback song for you then.
Yeah, that conversation. Oh, I like that song. That's a good song. That conversation we just had with Riley Gaines, that's going to be up on the News Talk STL podcast here pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick.
So that's a good one. We got a lot of comments on that on social media. Yeah, appreciate all that. And be sure to get that out there. I'll post it on my Twitter or my X at AVP Radio Show. News Talk STL will do it, and I'm sure Susie and Jerome, you guys are always tweeting that stuff out too here as well. So, and by the way, if you are just to follow up. If you are as passionate about saving lives, and we noticed we didn't talk a lot about politics, and Riley Gaines was incredibly gracious right there because Trump just like took a swipe at her and slammed her on social media,
uncalled for.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And she's still, saying, "Hey, here's what's gone right." So I was kind of impressed by that, but I didn't want to bring up the politics of it and the whole thing. But she talked about the culture, of life that we need to win. And one of the ways of doing that is we need to be following through with what we say as far as supporting the women and, frankly, the men who are in the unexpected or crisis pregnancies. And nobody really does that better than REACH, Reproductive Health. There are a lot of great pregnancy resource centers all over the area. Don't get me wrong. They're all worth supporting. REACH right now is hiring. They have grown so much. There are so many women who need their help that they need to hire. We're not talking about volunteer positions. We're talking about going to work, getting paid. This is the next step of your career. So if you know somebody who would want to work at REACH Reproductive Health, go to outreachforlife.org/jobs. And that's where you get a list of the jobs that they are hiring for. They need an accounting coordinator, an operations manager, an operations coordinator overall. And then in the patient services part of the field, in the St. Peter's location in particular, they need a nurse manager, and they are looking for a case manager as well. But once again, outreachforlife.org/jobs, and you'll get more information there. Okay. Prohibition. That's got a great history. That always works, right?
You know it. You love it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting thing here. And this is normally I don't talk about stuff that's happening in other countries that much. I mean, every once in a while, Canada does something really stupid, and we talk about it because it's so close to home. I mean, you look at the tyranny that they were putting into place during the whole COVID nonsense, and that was one of the examples we looked at. And we went, look at what they're doing. You're wanting to do that stuff here. We looked at that sort of thing. But I saw an article, and I found it on Newsmax, and it says Britain plans lifelong ban on smoking for youth. Now, on one hand, you say, okay, they want people to be healthier. There's nothing good about tobacco and nicotine products. That's what they're saying.
Right.
Well, yeah. And not good for you. But that's not the question at hand. It's who gets to make that choice, right? And so what they're doing right now, and this is going to go throughout the entire United Kingdom. Of course, that's England. We tend to think of England as the UK. The UK is England, Wales, and Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Am I missing anybody there? It's
So I know. So England is where like the king
Wales,
that we
Wales, yeah.
that we fought off was, and there's Great Britain, and
Great
then
Britain
there's
is the
United
country.
Kingdom,
Yeah. So they've got this law that's about to go into effect. It's already passed Parliament, and the BBC is reporting that it needs a clearance from the king, which I didn't realize the king actually did anything other than do ceremonial stuff. But apparently, he's got King Chuck's there's got to do something there, and then their ministers, their heads of the departments, they're going to be given broad new powers to regulate tobacco products. So to me, this is not about the tobacco products, though. The entire article in the BBC article are all about the tobacco. But what they're doing is saying, okay, if you were born after January 1st, if you were born on or after January 1st, 2009, it will never be legal for you to buy or own or use tobacco products. If you were born before that, you were of age before we're making the change to the law, so your grandfathered in and you can smoke until you die or you can vape until you die or whatever the case is. And obviously the retail businesses who sell the products are upset because the government said, we're going to take away this part of what you can sell in this part of your business. Okay, well, regulations do that. But the other part comes down to what's the role of government in making these decisions for your life? And this is why I think it's a bigger picture. They have a socialist government. They have a socialist healthcare system. Everything is single payer through the government. And this is what we were warning when Obamacare first came about, because it is a centralization and socialization of our health and medical industry. Now, it hasn't gone as far as what we've seen in outright socialist countries, but this is an example of kind of what's to come. And you may say, well, this is a good thing, Mike. We're going to stop people from smoking, and you probably will. But look at the question as to why. Okay, the fact of the matter is that everybody gets taxed really heavily in the UK, in large part to pay for the socialized healthcare system that's quote unquote free. And so many people don't look at their tax bill, which is incredibly heavy over there, and they divorce that from their benefits. And so when the government is responsible for balancing the books, and they're looking at this saying, you're costing us tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, and so we're going to control what you're allowed to do because everybody's paying into this. So everybody now has a vested interest in controlling what you do. Now, in this case here, you've got, something that's universally, for the most part, accepted as it's bad for you. Smoking cigarettes is bad for you. It is. Now, you got the freedom to do something bad for you unless somebody else is paying for it. And that's the argument they're making. And that's one of the downfalls of socialism.
Well, of course. Now, I just want to go back to the whole grandfathered in idea.
Yeah.
Because it says that older adults that are not, they can still buy nicotine products.
Correct.
It doesn't necessarily, I guess, mean that they would be selling them domestically, but it doesn't sound like you would be banned from importing them. What makes them think, for whatever reason, that there's not going to be somebody grandfathered in willing to sell the same product to the people that are supposed to be gate kept from?
They're without question going to create a black market. So which would you rather have? A black market of something you're inhaling and putting into your, you want a black market on that? Or would you rather have it above board where you can regulate it? Look at what some of the differences, good or bad or otherwise, with marijuana in Illinois and in Missouri here, is that where are people buying that stuff? And that's pretty much people accept not good for you. I don't think it's as bad for you as alcohol or tobacco, but now it's all above board. Now it's strictly regulated. Now, I would have done something different with some of the regulations, but it's above board and you know what's there, as opposed to the guy selling it to you on the street corner. You don't know what you're getting.
Well, and a lot of the damage from smoking cigarettes, besides the fact that inhaling any kind of irritant is bad,
right.
It comes down to how much chemicals and post-processed stuff goes into it. But what I'm wondering, though, so you have a single-payer socialist healthcare system that under law, you as a certain aged individuals cannot have access to, you cannot buy, smoke, whatever. then this black market, whatever that may look like, emerges, and now you still end up having people that will have maybe some of the same effects or some of the same health risk because they're engaging in that. Does that then put them at, like, can you deny them service? Say, well, you broke the law, we're not going to
under a
for it, or?
socialist system, probably not. And it probably will go. Those cases will probably go down over time, without a doubt. But think about the power that you've given the government when you say, "I want you to provide something for me." There's always a trade-off. You are giving government some power and control over your life. Okay, you know what's one of the leading causes of death around the world, especially in the U.S., and I've seen it in Europe as well. I mean, I haven't been to Europe that much, but unhealthy food.
Yeah, heart disease.
Twinkies.
Carotid arteries.
Yeah, cupcakes.
Gout.
Pizza.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Things that we could choose not to put in our bodies.
Is it a leap of logic to say, well, right now, it's real easy to say, we're going to stop people from buying and using tobacco products because that's good for the system. It's going to lighten the load economically of the system, and it's going to save lives, so government's going to make that choice for you. Well, wait a minute. Diabetes is really expensive. Obesity is really expensive. So you know what? It's not fair that you're doing this to somebody else. It's not a matter of an incentive. Is that, you know what? If you were born before this date, you can still buy cupcakes. If you're born after this date, you're not allowed to do it because it's bad for you, and we're going to make sure that you're going to stay healthy, which in a macabre way actually tends to be worse on the system because you live longer and you cost more.
Well, and that's the thing, too, that with the people that I've seen that have successfully quit smoking or try to stop bad habit, they typically turn to something that's a little bit less as bad or at least less taboo to do. So a lot of people gain weight when they try to stop smoking because they will, one of the ways that they trick you into stopping that craving is through, Jolly Ranchers or mints or something of that nature. So then at what point is Britain or any group like this going to then say, well, we got too many people that are like you said with the cupcakes, there too many people are switching from nicotine to cupcakes. Now they're switching to some others. So, I mean, where does that end until there are no vices left for anybody to be able to choose to engage or not engage in?
Yeah, and then to me, the most important part of this is who gets to make the choice. You give government the power, and you make everybody else pay for your choices. You've given them the power to control or take away those choices. And right now we're talking about food. And right now we're talking about, vices. But that could end up being anything else in the name of it's good for you because government said so. You do not want to get into that situation here.
Stay away from the haram.
Okay, we have got a debate coming up June 2nd. This is going to happen in St. Charles. NewsTalkSTL, partnering with our friends at the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise and the St. Charles County Central Republican Committee. We are hosting the St. Charles County Executive Republican Primary Debate. This is going to happen at the Scheidegger Center on Linda Woods campus. Go to NewsTalkSTL.com for more information. Put it in your calendar. No RSVP needed, no tickets needed. Just put down June 2nd, 7 o'clock. Be at the Scheidegger Center and hear from Bill Aiello, hear from Steve Ellman, hear from Jason Law as they debate what should happen in the future of St. Charles County.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chan Scotch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking highs towards the mid-80s, mostly sunny skies. Get out and about, enjoy the beautiful conditions. A little bit breezier, though. Wind gusts possibly up to 30 miles per hour. Then we're tracking 2 rounds of showers and storms. One going to be during the AM commute Friday, some of which could have some stronger winds. Isolated threat of some tornadoes, but that is going to remain on the lower side. Highs towards mid-70s by the afternoon. More chances of showers and storms. Could see some few isolated stronger just south of St. Louis. A dry Saturday with isolated chances into Sunday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chan Scott.
Fox News commentary with Jimmy Fallon. Next.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us, and it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Here's Jimmy Fallon.
If you are a senior citizen, you have more money in your pocket today because of Donald Trump. If you are a single mom, if you're a waitress, If you're a delivery guy, somebody who gets tipped, you have more money because of Donald Trump. You don't have to like Trump. You don't have to like the Iranian war. You don't have to like his tweets about the Pope. But it is an undeniable fact of life that you have more money in your pocket today because of Donald Trump. That matters. That is consequential. And that has an impact on your life and the quality therein. And people will say, the gas prices are higher because of Iran. That's just true. So I'm not telling you that isn't the case. But wages are rising at a higher rate than inflation for the first time in 50 years in this country. And if you cover Trump from that consequential standpoint, it's actually like a really good president.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, Republicans in Congress going back to the reconciliation process to deal with the DHS funding issue here. They can do that without Democratic support. That's why they go to the tactic. It's a procedural thing. But is it also an opportunity to shrink government at the same time? I think we get so caught up, Jerome, in the idea that this is going to fund this national security aspect of the Department of Homeland Security, and it's about obviously defeating the left who's trying to defund it and the whole ICE debate and all that kind of stuff. But is there an underlying bigger picture to that? Our friends at the National Taxpayers Union actually think so. And so we're now joined by Thomas Aiello. Interesting take on this, Tommy. Thanks for being on the show here. You all posted an open letter that was sent to Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune. And your headline is funding for DHS through reconciliation should be temporary and offset by cuts elsewhere. So are we talking about using the procedural aspect to shrink government spending and still get the DHS job done? What is it that can be done?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. Last night, actually earlier this morning, the Senate passed that first part of the budget resolution to unlock this reconciliation process to bypass the Senate obstruction from the Democrats. Now, the letter we put out on Monday looks to accomplish a couple of things. One is when we talk about cutting spending, in this regard, they're not necessarily doing that. What they're looking to do is fund parts of the Department of Homeland Security for the next 3 years. That creates a really dangerous precedent because it should be an annual appropriation. Every single year, we look at how much money we're taking in, we're looking at the needs of the different departments, and we're funding them at the appropriate levels. What Republicans want to do right now is they sort of want to throw that precedent out the window and fund DHS for the next 3 years. Now, part of that is through this reconciliation process. We want to make sure that if DHS needs more money, there are reductions to the federal budget when the rest of DHS gets open. It's a little wonky, but we want to make sure that the Department of Homeland Security isn't double dipping in these funds. And right now, there's not much attention to that issue, and we could actually double the amount of funding for the Department of Homeland Security.
I mean, we kind of understand where the Republicans are going to come from just from a political standpoint to say, these Democrats are trying to defund the whole thing. Why would we do another fight next year and the year after that and the year after that? What I'm hearing you say is, yeah, but that's the way the budgets are supposed to be done, is that we're supposed to be scrutinizing them constantly, even if that makes things tougher. Am I close?
No, I think you're exactly right. Look, I think we know the Democrats are going to obstruct any time they possibly can, especially with President Trump in the White House. Now, one thing I would caution Republicans on is we know that's going to happen. We also know if Democrats win the House of Representatives in November and possibly the Senate, that's on the table, it's very possible the Democrats could get hardened in their position. So it's important for Republicans to take appropriate measures now to get around that. Instead of funding DHS for 3 years, and if you're going to do it, make sure it's offset, there's a great bipartisan piece of legislation called the Prevent Government Shutdowns Act. That takes government shutdowns off the table completely and keeps government funds at the current levels, so no spending increases, until Congress can pass a budget. That's a much better alternative. That's just a constant continuing resolution, same spending levels, and it makes sure government stays open, and it really defangs the Democrats from using the government funding process against Republicans and against President Trump. That's a much better alternative to what Republicans are proposing here.
Okay, so when you talk about the offsets for the spending for DHS or any increased spending, I mean, that's music to my ears as a fiscal conservative here. Is there any low-hanging fruit where budgets and spending could be cut immediately to make those numbers balance out?
I mean, there are. Now, I think what's unique about this budget resolution process is, they set the instructions at spending no more than $140 billion over the next 10 years. Now, that might seem like a very big number, but it's important to keep in mind that they can only spend up to that number. From my conversations on the Hill, it's not going to be anywhere near $140 billion. It'll probably be about half. They just want to give themselves some breathing room to massage the numbers out. Now, when we talk about potential offsets for this package, there's really not much Republicans can do right now, because the way the process of reconciliation works is senators needed to vote yesterday to give instructions to the different committees about how much they can spend and how much they can cut. Now, they only gave instructions to the Judiciary Committee and the Homeland Security Committee, and there's really not many offsets from those two places of jurisdiction to cut. So what we would really like to see is another reconciliation package that actually homes in on a lot of these reforms to waste, fraud, and abuse, and a lot of the reforms to government healthcare programs, which is where so much of this wasted government spending actually takes place. There's so many examples in the Medicare program, for example, where there's fraud in the hospice program. There's hospitals overbilling for services for seniors. If you really look at the Medicare program, you can save hundreds of billions of dollars a year just in cracking down in those areas without sacrificing the important care seniors would actually get from the program. So it's little things like that where we should home in on, and I'm really hopeful that a Republican Congress in another reconciliation package will make that a priority. Because right now, we're just going to be spending money. It's going to need another package to actually offset it, which is very unfortunate with a Republican majority.
Yeah, we're visiting with Tommy Aiello from the National Taxpayers Union. We'll put the contact information and website information out there in just a second. In the last couple of minutes we've got, Tommy, I think that right there is such a massive point, because we are talking hundreds of millions, possibly billions of dollars in actual fraud and in actual waste. And I do think that there's been some proactive efforts on the part of the Trump administration, and I've certainly got my critiques of the Trump administration, but this is an area where they've identified something that everybody should be on board with. Of course, we don't want our tax dollars wasted. Of course, we don't want fraud to happen. Of course, we don't want that. And yet that's become such a massive political argument, which shows you just how entrenched the special interests are, and I'll say it, grifters are.
Yeah, I've only been in Washington for 13 years, but I can remember 13 years ago, Democrats actually wanted to work in rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. And now they just seem to throw their hands up and close their eyes and pretend that it's not happening. I think you're going to see the House of Representatives in particular really, really make this a priority, potentially as soon as next week in some bills that's going to be working their way through the committee process. I don't think this is a conversation that's going away, and I think it's an important conversation that we have, but it's more important that we take action. And, I think when we look at what the Republican majority is doing, they can certainly be doing more, but unfortunately, government is just a little slow sometimes. But I really do think that the Republican majority in the House is going to make this a big priority, and hopefully we can save taxpayers a lot of money with these reforms that they're going to be pushing through.
You mean even if it puts children at risk of not being able to access a Leering Center in Minnesota?
I mean, when you look at these crazy examples, it really is makes your head spin because, I think, when you see one cockroach, there's many more behind the scenes. What's happening in Minnesota is obviously a terrible thing, and a lot of attention has been shown to it. But there's 49 other states that have similar programs, and I think as the House works through their process, more of that is going to come to light. And again, these are things that should be bipartisan. We don't want anyone stealing taxpayer dollars, especially when we have a $39 trillion debt. We need every dollar on the table, and we need to take a full accounting of where every dollar goes. And part of that is into these programs that for far too long have gone under the radar without the scrutiny that they deserve.
Okay, so, I was just on your website a second ago. Constant looking at different aspects of taxation and spending and waste and proper role of government. So people want to connect with you. We've already tagged you on our social media, Tommy. Where do they get in touch, either with you individually or the website for the National Taxpayers Union?
Well, they can go to our website at, it's ntu.org. We focus in not just on tax and spending issues, but things like healthcare, housing, energy, everything that has a taxpayer impact. And, of course, you can follow us on all the main social medias at NTU.
All right. Thanks, Tommy. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, 314-912-1019 just ahead here. A data center could be coming to North County. We got those debates all over the place, but this one involves possibly $1 billion in tax incentives from the local government. Is that a good deal? Is that something they should even be thinking about? I've got the basics for you right around 8:51. All right, hunters, you know what time it is. It's turkey season, of course. And if you're an outdoorsman, you're an outdoors woman, you know that this is a massive, massive time of the year for outdoorsy types and hunters, especially in northeast Missouri, where turkey hunting is just a way of life here. So when you get your calls, you get your decoys, you get your blinds, you get your ammo, you want to do it from people who live the life. Whistle Pig Outdoors is where you want to go in Troy. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Whistle Pig, whistlepigoutdoors.com. It's not just that they can equip you and update your decoys and update your blinds and update your gear and your clothes and your waders and all that. It's not just that. It's that Jason and Cole, father and son team who own and run the store, they make sure that it's quality. If they wouldn't hunt in it, if they wouldn't camp in it, then they're not going to have it in their store. And especially if you're hunting with archery, they've got a bow tech right there on site that can hook you up with a beginner to an advanced bow, but also can tweak and can repair and can calibrate what you already have. And he's one of the best around. There's a reason people come to Whistle Pig Outdoors from literally 100 miles around or more, because they know what they're doing. They live the lifestyle, and they're going to make your hunting season a much, much, much better harvest because they know what they're doing. Tap into the expertise there of Jason and Cole and their team. Whistle Pig Outdoors right there on Main Street in Troy.
Hey, Tony Colombo here with Tim Jones for our friends Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway, the #1 home selling team in the St. Louis area, and I can say that from firsthand experience. My wife and I were blown away from the results that we saw from working with Rodney and Jen, from selling our old home faster and for more money than we thought possible to finding our family's perfect new home. They over-delivered every step of the way, and right now it's still very much a seller's market. So, Tim, for folks that have been thinking about selling their home, it's a perfect time to call the Wallners.
That's right, Tony. And don't forget, they're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, so no matter where you are in the metro area, you can put St. Louis's #1 home selling team to work for you. The Wallners' experience and work ethic, second to none. And of course, the numbers speak for themselves. The Wallners sell 15 times more homes per year than the typical realtor. Right now, they're working with so many qualified buyers, they'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. If you've been thinking about selling your home, don't wait. Call the Wallners now at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner Home Selling Team.
Witness art come alive at the Augusta Plein Air Art Festival, April 23rd through May 2nd. Over 100 talented artists transform the scenic landscapes of Augusta into breathtaking masterpieces right before your eyes. Explore daily paint-out events at local wineries, historic sites, and the stunning Missouri River Bluffs. And the final day, May 2nd, enjoy the street festival with food trucks, more than 80 artist booths, live music, children's paint experience tent, and more. Learn more at AugustaPleinair.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story when I almost died in a West Texas oil field.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Ugh.
That one's for me.
I hate that song.
I love it.
But Jerome likes it, so you'll hear it again.
And I love your reaction to it.
Oh, man. All right. Okay, so $1 billion incentive deal that would support, among other things, a data center in North County. Is that a good plan? What do you think? I'll give you the basic details here. By the way, the fight over gerrymandering in Virginia, not over just yet. Cardinals getting ready to start a homestand tomorrow. I'll tell you what's going on there. It is 8:51. Let's wrap things up here with one more news dump.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by The Nutrition Stop.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
You know, I mean, they got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
A data center is part of a proposed development in Ferguson, and city officials are thinking about an incentive package to make it happen, and this will not be cheap. Not for the developer and possibly not for the taxpayers. Is it worth it? KMOV's Morgan Harris explained in this report that she posted last night.
Developing now, leaders in Ferguson are preparing to debate a set of tax incentives that could help bring major changes to the former Emerson campus. Tomorrow, a city council meeting is taking place for a second reading on a bill that could grant over $1 billion in tax breaks to a developer who is looking to turn the space into a tech hub and a data center. This comes after the plan passed a first reading earlier this week. Now, some residents have shared concerns about those possible tax breaks.
Okay, so she filed that last night. So when she's talking about that meeting tomorrow, that's actually today, and that meeting starts at 7 o'clock. So if you've got just the incentives being worth $1 billion, you're talking about a massive project. And that's a pretty big campus. The old Emerson campus is pretty big, and part of it's going to be the data center, but it's not only a data center, because when you look at like the debates that are happening in Festus, that are happening in Troy, Illinois, that are happening in Lincoln County, that are happening in Warrenton and the city of St. Louis, those are all standalone data centers. This would be a data center as part of a bigger tech hub. And I don't know the number of jobs that would be involved. I don't know the amount of the whole project. But if you're talking about just the tax incentives being $1 billion, that's huge. Now, I'm not a big fan of the cronyism and all of that sort of thing. So tough choices to be made in Ferguson, which is desperate for private development.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. We haven't talked a whole lot about war stuff. White House claims Iran is on the brink of collapse. Been claiming that for weeks now, but they're saying that Iran is losing as much as $500 million a day as the U.S. continues its part of the blockade. And of course, Iran's doing the other part of the blockade. Okay, so talks fell through this week after both sides failed to show up in Pakistan for peace talks. Ceasefire from the U.S. is still going on, although Iran is still firing on ships that are going into the Strait. Senator Ted Cruz was on Hannity last night on Fox, and he says Iran's going to be forced to shut down its oil wells if there can't be a deal that's reached.
Water seeps into the rock, and if you try to reopen them, production plummets. And so Iran is facing a permanent, massive degradation of its ability to generate revenue, to generate income.
Okay, so the White House says earlier today that talks could resume as early as tomorrow. in the Middle East. But I don't think this is going exactly as planned, although clearly the U.S. military has the dominance militarily. It's just the war's still going on.
Yeah, I'll believe whatever they're saying when Iran actually agrees and says, okay, we're done, we give in, we tap out. Until then, I've heard them be annihilated. They're no longer annihilated. I hear that it's going to be over soon, that they're begging to make a deal. They don't want to make a deal. They're not showing up for deals. Now we're honoring a ceasefire agreement. They're still doing stuff. I just don't even know where to begin with this anymore.
All right, Congress launching an investigation into that group of now 12 scientists, because earlier I think it was 11, but now there's another one who's been connected to everything. Wasn't it 11 a couple days ago?
It was like 10 then 11.
Now it's 12.
Now, do they just drop whenever we talk about the story?
Yeah, I mean, who either died or have gone missing in recent years. Congressman Eric Burleson was on Fox on the Ingram angle, emphasizing that he thinks this is a really big deal and really big reason to have this investigation.
I mean, we have a growing list of brilliant Americans who are working on breakthrough technology that was all critical to our nation, to our national security efforts. And at the end of the day, this nation is weaker because of the loss of these individuals.
Okay, so those who are involved in the investigations, they say they have not uncovered the specific connection between all of the mysterious disappearances. The case does remain under investigation, but there's a massive commonality in the stuff they were all working on.
It was like nuclear science and like astrophysics and stuff like that. There was a commentator on one of my own personal posts that mentioned basically, should we be worried that this is retaliation for us taking out the nuclear scientists of Iran? And I don't know that we have enough information right now to say one way or another. I still think they need to check the area for crop circles to make sure that they're not floating away in space.
I mean, there's a lot of jokes you can be made, but if you talk about people who are working in energy and national security, I mean, this is one of those that's like, okay, the line between conspiracy theory and something really, really bad. I mean, we're talking something really devious because if you're targeting people in that particular industry that's got such a connection to national interest on that, we need to find out what's going on. And if it's a wild coincidence, which you're getting into numbers now that makes that really unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible, but it is very unusual in the world of coincidences for it to be that many times.
Just mathematically speaking. All right, the Cardinals lose their final game of the series with the Marlins on Thursday. Final score in Miami was 4-1. Ivan Herrera's ninth-inning home run was the Redbirds' only run. Cardinals only had 3 hits in the whole game. That ain't good. You feel bad for the pitcher in that case because they can't win a game if you only get 3 hits. They can only do so much. Today is a travel day. The Cardinals start a series with the Mariners at home on Friday. That's going to last through the weekend.